Well, so that was the Trade Minister, Alhaji Kwabena Tare Hammond, there. Quite livid. The reason, the Cement Manufacturers Association of Ghana, CIMAG, had written to Parliament about a legislative instrument that he and his officials at the ministry put together. And he has justified why he needed not consult stakeholders in the drafting of this legislative instrument, which some have found quite out of place. But he says, well, to the extent that they called his bluff just about a month ago, there was no reason for him to consult, for instance, the Cement Manufacturers Association of Ghana about the LI, which he is pushing Parliament to consider and includes a 3-year jail term for any of these cement manufacturers who do not go according to the dictates and the details of this legislative instrument. Question is, will this LI survive parliamentary scrutiny, or would it even make it to the floor of the House for a debate on it? Well, in the midst of all this, the cement retailers have already given indication of a possible increase in the price of cement beginning next week. What does all of this say, especially to all of us? That's one of the biggest conversations we'll have this morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Also on the table this morning, state prosecutors have continued the cross-examination of the third accused, Richard Jakpa, in this ongoing ambulance procurement case, for which Minority Leader Dr. Keselato Forsen is standing trial with him. Now, the two men have been accused of willfully causing financial loss to the state and deliberately misapplying state funds. In fact, if we do know that 2.37 million euros as the state is making the case for nothing done, more than just the defective sprinter buses. Finally, the Attorney General, Godfrey Adame, took over the cross-examination of Richard Jakpa on Thursday, June 27. Now, prior to the proceedings on Thursday, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Yvonne Atakra Obobisa, had been cross-examining Richard Jakpa over the period. Now, there's something very interesting that happened during that cross-examination of Richard Jakpa. A letter that was put together communicating reasons for the dismissal or purported dismissal of Richard Jakpa from the Ghana Armed Forces while he was serving was pulled out by the Attorney General. And that was the basis for the Attorney General's cross-examination of Richard Jakpa. We have a copy of that letter, which we would get into this morning here on the Key Point. And as to whether the questions that many have asked, if it has any direct bearing on the substance of this case, we'll talk about it because we have some lawyers joining us this morning. The Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has announced the completion of Ghana's debt restructuring program with its official creditors. Now, according to the Member of Parliament for the Karaga constituency, who serves as Finance Minister, government has successfully restructured its debt of some $5.1 billion with bilateral creditors, in addition to the conclusion of the restructuring of some $13.1 billion with the Eurobond holders. What does all of this mean for us? we just postponing our headache? How does this breathing space impact on the economy? What decisions have to be taken with the savings that the finance minister communicated we have made, some $8 billion. This is not money that's seated there. It's money that we should have been using or could have been using to pay or service our debts. But what is the real story in the entire debt restructuring program? Is it just about external Eurobond holders? Did you know that there are some Ghanaians who also invested their money into Eurobonds? And if there's going to be a 37% haircut, how does that also impact them? So that's the flip side of this conversation that we'll be having. And then also how this positively impacts on the economy as well. So we'll have that conversation on both sides. Later on, we will also spread our tentacles beyond the borders of this country, going to Kenya. The Kenyan President, William Ruto, is saying that his plans to withdraw this controversial finance bill that sparked violent protest and a deadly government crackdown that saw a reported 22 people killed when police opened fire on demonstrators who stormed Parliament minutes after the lawmakers passed the bill. In fact, that consideration for a conversation on the passage of the bill never saw the light of day. There's been that conversation as to whether that spontaneous protest, which in fact had no leadership, is one that is sending a direct message to the rest of the continent as to how governance, meaningful democracy is deteriorating. And so people continuously losing faith in democracy would want to take matters and their faith into their own hands. Should the rest of Africa be taking lessons from this, or is one thing that is peculiar and limited to just Kenya? We have some governance experts joining us who have served in the United Nations and also many other international bodies to have a conversation on this morning. Bear in mind, we had some 5 Ghanaian members of parliament who were caught up in that protest when the Kenyan youth stormed that parliament. They also have their own story to tell. So this morning, we'll have a conversation here on the key point. As always, you are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. Very, very interactive. My name is Alfred Ocansey. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. My guests will join me and we would have a conversation on the key point. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Auntie.
After, darling.
One chilled bottle of Nero Orange, please.
You want the cola, orange, lemon, vino, Nero.
Wow.
Cola, orange, lemon, vino. I'm gonna feel it cool, it refresh your body. Nero Cola, orange, lemon, and Bovino. New non-alcoholic flavored drink from Nero Beverages. This advert is FDA approved.
This Sunday on Hot Issues.
What is spectacular about Matthew Opoku Papa? He's been in charge of the energy sector. He has not even got the honor and the capacity to accept that we have an energy crisis.
What's your relationship with the Electoral Commission like at the moment?
It's a relationship that I would say is difficult. Why? Because there's no trust. If there is a place where the most massive stealing of vote happens in this country, it's Ashanti region. It was in that critical moment when they were stealing the vote. Do you know where the shenanigan was happening? It's coming from Ashanti region, from Kumasi. That's where they were changing the result that already been declared.
What are the achievements of the NDC?
I see all the time that there's no perfect political system. But between the NDC and MPP, it's really sad if people actually make an effort to place us as the same.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
This week on Ghana Strongest, the battle lines are drawn. We head inside Tema SOS village where the men and women are challenged to their limits in events like the giant tower flip, giant power stairs, and some medley in there, coupled with TV3 Stone. Head to head in epic challenges.
190. She's still going.
26.
Witness strength redefined. Ghana Strongest special episode from Tema SOS Village airs 30th June at 4 p.m. Don't miss out.
Hey, you got.
Catch Ghana Strongest this Sunday only on TV3. Brought to you by
Deluxy Acrylic Paint, Kivo Foods,
Dragnet, Mixi Choco, Channel Hot,
Frutelli Caliper.
All sporting disciplines matter on Warm Up Plus.
Warm Up Plus, the most exciting hour on TV. So join the conversation and get updated.
Get sports news, visit exciting places, and be in the know on Warm Up Plus. Let's go, Diana.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting warmed up.
Catch me, Yao, the Fusulabi.
And me, Aniela Alote, every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. only on TV3.
This week on Today's Woman, we're talking about a very sensitive condition called autism. Many people have gotten uncomfortable and even shied away from even voicing out what the condition is.
My main concern was he wasn't really verbalizing.
Okay.
And so what is really
problem,
going on? Yeah. Around 15 months, I'm like, no. And I would take him out to the park or went to the swimming pool. And the woman told me, you know, your son doesn't look at people when he's... So I got angry, like, how dare you?
Oh.
But in retrospect, I'm thanking her.
Mrs. Sewa Kweno has a 41-year-old autistic child, or let me say an autistic man who currently works at Kempinski. Just to let you know that being autistic is not the end of the world. Catch us this Saturday, 3 p.m. right here at TV3 for Today's Woman with me.
Today's Woman with Cookie Tea shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Vlisco.
I'll make sure you enjoy.
This is some. We am Baba, we am Balaya Waha. I wish. Why, you know, my Abaya, Abay, no, but then Abadiano come on, go well, Bissadi. Bravo, William Bamolia, Nansakake, oh, that imagine, Abay. Ah, a higher husband daycare center. What's there? What do you find? But daycare no brain you what's it with ya? But daytime, Brenner won't care about you.
Husband Daycare shows Saturdays at 4 p.m. on TV3.
What'll you ever do without me?
You'll never leave me, right?
Memories of Love, a tale of unpredictable love. Meet Ivan and Joseph, two soldiers who become best friends when they meet at the war front. They spend their time talking about their love lives, with Joseph telling Ivan about his great love for his girlfriend Andrea.
Otep, you got hit! We're brothers in this, Gatsby. Grenade!
Tragedy struck when they got captured by rebels, imprisoned and tortured. Ivan is rescued by the military, but the suffering he experienced triggered him to assume the identity of Joseph while losing memories, perception and awareness of his own life and past.
Ivan?
And then?
How do you know my name?
It's me. I'm Otep.
With his assumed identity, Ivan finds great love in the arms of Andrea as Joseph. What happens when the real Joseph is rescued and finds out that his best friend has betrayed him by staying with the love of his life? Memories of Love, coming soon on TV3. Meet Hung Raon, a counselor. She disguises herself as a man and counsels men on dating. Meet Crown Prince Humyong, the charming prince of the country. Crown Prince Humyong does not know that the man he is with is a woman in disguise. Will Hong Raon continue her disguise, or will she expose her real identity to mature a love affair with the Crown Prince? Find the answers to these questions and more in the gripping Korean series Love in the Moonlight. Love in the Moonlight. Catch the excitement and the suspense as secrets are unveiled and love rules the day. Love in the Moonlight shows Monday to Fridays at 4 p.m. only on TV3.
People of those who have established these factories, you are not careful. I mean, that's its market operation. They want maximization of profit. They would want to maximize profit as much as they want. We think that it is not good for the health of the entire country if a select group of people decide that they will make the system for what it's worth. Is that a bad suggestion? And so today I have received a copy of a petition written by the Association of Ghana Cement Manufacturing, whatever. Pretty insulting. Dr. Amwa Dawson, he writes to Parliament, tells Parliament to order me to take back my document and to consult with him, and that what I'd done was not respectful or something, because I hadn't told him. You know, sometimes you got to be careful when some of these things come about. But he's a PhD, he's a doctor, so reading and comprehension shouldn't be a problem for him. He should go and read the Constitution.
Well, welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com, also live on a number of radio stations across the country. That is Al-Hajj. Bet you do know now, says that he wants that title to be recorded. That that's Al-Hajj Kwabena Tahir Hammond, after going on the pilgrimage, he wants that to be recorded. Quite livid about a letter. In fact, this was more like a petition that was sent by the Cement Manufacturers Association of Ghana, detailing a number of reasons why an ally that he, together with the officials within the ministry, put together to ostensibly, in fact, the core objective of this legislative instrument is to regulate cement pricing in this country, because from his analysis, and he says based on information that he has gathered, cement manufacturers are fleecing consumers. They are taking consumers for granted, and they are cheating consumers and taking advantage of the consuming public. And as a result, this ally is meant to correct that. Now, this statement got a number of reactions, and rightly so, when we got portions of this ally as well. As we go on, we'll put aspects of the ally on the screen so you have an idea of why the cement manufacturers are not too happy about the position that the minister has taken. My guest joining me in studio in a bit to have a conversation. Also, some are joining us on the telephone and then also on Zoom this morning here on Key Point. I have private legal practitioner and the leader of one of three individual bondholder groups and the convener of the Kume Prekurilo demonstration, Martin Lutakpebu. Council, good morning to you. Welcome to Key Point.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Ocansey. Good to be here again. Yeah. Hey, and quickly, let me greet Gamante, like I've been saying. Yeah, we will forever be grateful for his joining the fray in the Sicily Adapa matter, right? Yes. I mean, when was the last time we heard the chief come into such matters? And this is where we need them to speak up more and more, right? Yeah, we remember in the past, Doma Hini spoke and spoke. Yeah. People weren't happy, and so it appears now he's quieted. And maybe he should speak, because now there are no elders, so the chiefs should come up. This is not partisan politics. If one person has so much money in her house and chiefs cannot wade in, then it means our society is sick. So, Domahini, you have a role to play in this Sicily Adapa matter. Recently, too, well, I should say a bit of commendation to Ochihini. I heard him also say that when it comes to the educational system, no matter how many infrastructure, etc., you put up, if you don't pay teachers well, then you've done nothing. I think that's also worth kind of repeating and commending him for, okay? Right. Yes, so that our teachers should be paid. Because sometimes you go around and then you see your former teachers, and I mean, it's usually not a sight to behold at all. It's quite pathetic. So government should be looking at how teachers will be incentivized well to make the profession what it's supposed to be. Teachers have suffered for too long.
That concern falls on the lap, in fact, and is of good interest to my other guest, who, in fact, leads a group of lecturers, and they have already served notice on what will be done if certain promises made them are not fulfilled. I'm talking about Professor Ransford Jampo. He leads the University of Ghana University Teachers Association, and he is a professor of political science and also an internationally respected governance expert. Professor Ransford Jampo, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Good to see you, Martin. Good morning.
Yes, bro. Morning.
I think that we live in a nation where the President of the Republic himself does not respect the need for teachers to be properly remunerated. Once upon a time, he said that if you are looking for money, it shouldn't be within the realm of teaching profession and that you should go do business. But in Germany and in other developed countries, teachers are the highest paid employees. And so I don't see why teachers cannot be paid well to do well. And I like what Dr. Chihine said. Recently, when I went to my own alma mater, the West Africa Secondary School, I was asked to be a keynote speaker on how to improve environment for quality teaching, and I told them that you can send all the textbooks there, you can install all the computers, you can do everything, but without a motivated teacher, you are just romancing a stone because nothing would happen. But as part of my opening remarks, let me say that I am not interested in the petty partisan politics going on in Ghana. I'm interested in Ghana's national development. It is just about 5 months to elections. The key political parties have not been able to let us know what they stand for, their manifestos, proper blueprints that would serve to guide the conduct of their party rallies and campaign. We don't have manifestos. And so I am disappointed. It's like we are retrogressing every election season. It didn't used to be the case that we have just about 5 months to elections and parties are not telling us, they are not outdooring their blueprints, manifesto blueprints. It is absolutely unacceptable. It started, I think, in the 2016 elections, 2020 elections, and then now we have the same thing. But it didn't used to be like that. So the political elites should take us a bit more seriously as a people. We want to read what they stand for. And I commend Alan Shermanton for outdooring his great transformation plan. I've read the document. I think initially I thought that the election, elections of 2024 was going to be a simple decider between light and a day. But after reading his GTP and the contents, now it's making me crave to read what the other parties would also bring, so that we can do a proper, we can exercise our right of choice. But I say this to the shame of the two main political parties, that I do not understand why up till now, 5 months, it is not about being scared that when you outdoor your manifesto, somebody will copy. If you bring the manifesto promises and people are copying, we are discerning enough to know who initiated what and who is copying what. And so I call on them that they should treat Ghanaians with some respect by quickly outdooring their manifestos. And the practice of waiting to the dying minute of manifesto of elections before they outdoor their manifesto is absolutely unacceptable.
Professor Ranso Jampo, thank you very much. Now, thankfully, we have on the telephone, and I don't know if this is going to get into the manifesto of the MPP if Parliament eventually considers it. And this is the legislative instrument that's seeking to regulate cement pricing in this country. And a number of people who have commented on the details, as we do know, of this LI are talking about how we're even considering getting into the era of price controls when the world of trade and commerce and business has moved into the realms of prices being determined by market forces and competitive mechanisms or competitive strategies put in place by businesses in any industry or market, for that matter. I have been joined on the telephone by Dr. George Dawson Amoah. You heard the minister mention his name. He is the president of the Cement Manufacturers Association of Ghana, CMAG. We'll also be joined by a key member of the Trades, Industry and Tourism Committee of Parliament in a bit. But Dr. Dawson Amwa, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Keep On.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. And I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person. I'm bereaved. In fact, I lost my wife 3 weeks ago. So I couldn't. I am actually in a mourning mood and currently engaged in preparations towards the burial of my wife. That's why I couldn't join you in person. So my apology. Good morning.
And thank you very much. Apology accepted. Our condolences to you, all of us here, hearing the loss of your wife this morning. Our condolences, and even getting the strength to speak to us this morning is really appreciated. So thank you so much.
Problem.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
First of all, let's start off this conversation understanding what goes on in the industry. What goes into cement manufacturing? I mean, we always hear of clinker and the fact that clinker being the major component of cement manufacturing is imported. But help us understand what goes into cement manufacturing in this, at least in this country.
Good. Thanks so much once again. And I also want to caution that please don't give me any questions that will, encourage any banter with the Minister of Trade and Industry. We've all heard him that, in trying to defend our petition, is rather attacking. I'm not too comfortable about it. I'm not actually here more or less to react to that, but let's go straight to addressing the issue on the table.
Indeed.
Like Rami said, I think you've already answered the question, what goes into the production of cement? Well, it's about, putting some raw materials together and getting a finished cement. If I should put it just straight on like that. Clinker, as you mentioned, is actually one of the raw materials. I would say the major raw materials which we can find in Ghana. It has to be imported. Then we have also other raw materials like limestone, like gypsum, in accordance to the standard from the Ghana Standard Authority. So basically, as I was saying, there are about 3 components that put together, raw materials put together, that we can have a finished cement, which can be produced into different types. There are different types of cement, but I don't think we are going to go in now. They are quite technical. But so basically, like you said, this question, there are 3 components, clinker being the major one, which is imported, which actually have to be put together to produce cement.
So we don't produce clinker in any form or in any quantity in this country, not at all. All the clinker used for cement manufacturing is imported.
So there's one company we call Diamond Cement, that is Savannah Diamond. They are situated, that is located in the northern part of the country, Woodley. That we have, they are actually, their production, it's called actually integrated. They produce clinker as well. Then, of course, locally. And clinker, just a brief, I'm not too purely a technical person, but at least I've worked with the industry for 29 years. So I think I can say something basic about it. Clinker is as a result of burning limestone. As a result of burning limestone. It is not a mineral. It's not something that you can get it that is in the ground. Just like, extracting gold or extracting whatever it is. But it is as a result of burning limestone. And limestone, we have some dotted limestone in Ghana. So if you have the desired quantity and the preferred quality of limestone, then you can actually establish a clinker factory. Then you can produce the clinker. But as of now, unless, of course, maybe someone will just come out, the preferred quantity and the preferred quality of the limestone that will commensurate or that will qualify or warrant any investor to set up a clinker factory in Ghana is something that it is not available now. We have some dotted limestone in the north, which is not of actually, the quantity, yes, the quality too, not too much of the desired quality, but it's currently being managed by the diamond cement, that is Savannah diamond, which they are using actually to produce the clinker there. But generally, that is come to the south, where we have deposits of limestone maybe in the eastern region, starting in the Ashanti region, and also in the western region. Like I said, the two major conditions that will warrant the establishment of a clinker factory is one, the quality of the limestone deposit, and two, the quantity, the volume of that limestone deposit, which currently we don't have. So basically, for several years, clinker has been imported and is still being imported.
I see. And how does the importation of clinker impact on the pricing of the product? I mean, the cement that we buy.
Good. Thank you so much. What goes into importation, I think we all know. So an industry like cement, hinging on the importation of clinker, as we have actually said, when there is fluctuation of the currency, it becomes a major concern. Importation goes with, exchange of foreign currency.
Indeed.
In this very instance, we are talking about, using hard currency like US dollars to go purchase the clinker. Also, pay for the freight. Also, when it is landed at the port, you pay the port tariffs dollarized. The port tariffs are dollarized. Then, of course, talking about the import duty or whatever duty, it is also paid in a foreign currency, but you pay equivalent in cedis. So you can imagine that when you have a constant foreign exchange, that fluctuation, foreign exchange, particularly when the cedi is hit, depreciating, like I said, you buy the clinker with foreign exchange, you bring it down, you grind, mill into cement, you sell in cedis, then you convert and we actually purchase the clinker. When we have a situation where the cedi is depreciating against the US dollar, then there is a problem. And this is what it's really, I will allow you to just answer the question. This is what the cement industry is experiencing currently for the past 3-4 months.
I see. So essentially, the depreciation of the cedi has a direct impact on the pricing of cement because
I think we can even qualify it as a
huge impact on the pricing of cement when the cedi depreciates.
Absolutely.
So the depreciation of the cedi that we've seen or witnessed over the last few months gone by is what has directly influenced the continuous increase in the pricing of cement that we have seen as well.
Certainly, there are other factors, but currently I would say this is the major concern now. There are other factors, but hello,
I'm here.
There are other factors, but I would say let's limit ourselves now as a priority that the cedi depreciation is the major concern, and that is an Ocansey with authority. And that is what has motivated the Honorable Minister to rush into Parliament to regulate prices. And the question is that, why didn't you do it last year? Cement industry has been in existence for a very long time. Why now that you are regulating, just pushing to regulate price of cement? Platinum, for example, has been in the industry for 60 years. The recent one, cement, we have about 10 to 12 players, yet it's about 4 or 5 years. Why now? And this is the reason. This is the reason. The escalation of the cement prices as of now is what it's actually more or less it's like influencing or, I don't know, has motivated the minister to rise to Parliament. And the reason for the escalation is clear.
So
it is as a result of the city depreciation. That is the reason.
I see. Well, but the minister doesn't seem to agree with that. In fact, he says that, yes, the reality is clear. City hasn't been performing great over the period. He accepts that that's a reality, but he makes the argument that we have to understand the pricing mechanism, just as the petroleum sector is regulated by the MPA. So everyone knows the basis for your pricing mechanism, so that he says it cannot be the case that this increment we've seen in cement prices over the last 2-3 months is just about the city depreciation. And that's why he's convinced that this LI would do as good as against what you are saying. Hello, Dr. Dawson?
Hello. Yes, good. You know, in our petition, the first, going by our petition, the first statement that we made, that we are surprised that such a move did not come as a result of stakeholder consultative meeting.
You weren't consulted?
That one, absolutely yes. This is a major issue, my brother. And the stakeholders are the cement manufacturers. And we believe that if there is a law going to be established concerning cement industry, there should be a judge. There should be a discussion. What is even more surprising, which I can even mention to you, that we have a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And I can say maybe the cement industry is the only industry that has that understanding, that agreement. Meaning that both the ministry and the cement manufacturers recognize the fact that the cement product has enormous economic impact, sensitive. So there is the need for the ministry and the industry to establish a consistent rapport whereby we will actually really come together to resolve any issue or any concern cement production. And I can tell you with authority that the ministry is our second home. We we are on every committee that has been set by the ministry which involves the cement industry. I personally. Recently, there has been a regulation with regards to the establishment of cement factories in Ghana. We realized that the rate at which people are setting up cement industry in Ghana, we should be very, very careful, because it really has an adverse effect of actually compromising with the standard. Together with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we've established an LI 2840. It is recent, just December.
I see.
Then, of course, we're talking about 2018, 2019. We also, together with the Ministry of Trade, have established an LI also regulating importation of bulk cement into the country.
Okay.
So we are together. So why this time that you really want to regulate prices, I will not even, whether discuss with a regulatory prices or finding ways and means of stabilizing cement prices. You cut it off.
Well, talk about
You really
consultation.
cut it off.
Well, on that bit of consultation, he said he didn't have to consult you in drafting the LI because he had
Can you
been...
imagine? That is where I said, please, don't really push me into any banker.
I'm not pushing, I'm only asking the questions.
Yes, please. The law is clear. It is actually clear that when you actually establish decent LIs, stakeholders are consulted, the views of stakeholders. And I can even mention that with even our, later investigation, even the Committee of Trade and Industry in Parliament was not even consulted. So that is actually, we are not just fighting. We are just saying that out of fairness, that LI concerns manufacturing. Please, give us a hearing. At least you are dealing with business people. Every step, every law has its consequences. At least we can be able to let you know the consequences of that. Meanwhile, let me put it on record. That most cement manufacturer is happy increasing price. I'm telling you. This, I'm being honest with you.
You are not happy increasing the prices?
They are not happy in actually increasing price. Because listen, the workers are Ghanaians. The business consumers, they know the level of what you call the salaries, and they know the housing deficit that they have. But they are compelled to because of unfavorable economic situation. It's unfavorable. And no investor invests to lose. No.
But let me find out this, and please confirm this for me, because one of the cement retailers has just sent me a message that beginning July 1, the cement manufacturers, have increased some components by 12 cedis. So it means that at the retail side, cement prices are going to go up again beginning July 1. Is it true?
I'm not privy to that. I am not privy to this information at all. So please, let's actually, no, I'm not privy to this.
Okay.
And like I said, if the justification is because of the civil implication, I will not be surprised.
I see.
If the justification is because of the civil implication, I will not be surprised.
Well, the minister says
this is the issue that we expect the trade minister to engage, because it is about solving the issue for the escalation, rather than jumping to have a regulation. That is exactly what we feel. So in any case, all that we are saying is that we are not happy the way it has been handled. We're still open for discussion, because what we also feel is that the regulating of prices of cement has attendant negative consequences, because, well, it is going to be like you want to impose, this is the price that you have to sell, and if the manufacturer or the producer, if that price is not favorable, what is the consequence? No production.
I see.
Shortage.
Well,
has the minister thought about this? You see, and of course, I mean, if you impose, this is the price, then you look at it, it's not profitable. What is the consequence? You lose employment. The employment. People have to be retrenched.
So it's not as though you are fleecing the public. You are only just taking advantage of the consuming public by increasing these prices without any mechanism in place. He says that's one of the reasons why, that you are just cheating the public.
I didn't get you. You said what?
No, he said that's another reason for the justification that he puts out for this LI is that he suspects that you are just cheating the public with this pricing mechanism that only you know. Because he cited an example that, for instance, a cement product that sells for 90 cedis here in Accra, he has information that it is sold for 110 cedis. Same size, same brand is sold for 110 cedis in Kumasi. So he doesn't understand what accounts for the price variation.
Okay, that's why we're saying that when we really engage and we discuss, there is a variation here. There's a component here we call transportation. You should know that transport of cement from Tema to Accra, it's not the same transportation cost from Tema to Kumasi. The difference here is the haulage. The difference here is the haulage. Now it is like every cement manufacturer sells X-Works. X-Works meaning that you come and pick. And the price difference, the difference that we have, it's location. It's location. So it was no way that you could expect the same price of cement in Accra to be the same price of cement in Kumasi. The variation here, the difference here is the transport. And at least quickly, let me just quickly, you also said that the minister was also trying to, set up, just like to discuss that the prices should be uniform as we have in the petroleum industry. Yeah? This is a different industry altogether. And what has actually made that price, uniform price of petrol throughout Ghana, it's what has to be investigated and it can be replicated in the cement industry.
Right.
We look at it. This is something that has been said. And this is something that here you mentioned. Without even setting a committee, there is not even a committee to look into that. There is, it's just like a reference point, looking at what is happening in the petroleum industry. How did they do it? That is the question.
Indeed.
How can it be replicated in the cement industry? I think this is the task that the Honorable Minister should be pursuing.
Dr. Dawson, Amwa, please stay on for me. And because a number of the things that you have said brings out some realities which challenges or as it were, questions the minister's basis for justifying this legislative instrument. But this will travel a path in Parliament. You have already petitioned the Trade, Industry and Tourism Committee of Parliament, and indeed Parliament as a whole, not to give hearing to this LI. The minister is not happy about you even writing to Parliament. He says, you expect that Parliament can stop him from doing what he has to do? He says that's not going to happen. Let's take a listen to the minister again.
People of those who have established these factories, you are not careful. I mean, that's its market operation. They want maximization of profit. They would want to maximize profit as much as they want. We think that it is not good for the health of the entire country if a select group of people decide that they will make the system for what it's worth. Is that a bad suggestion? And so today I have received a copy of a petition written by the Association of Ghana Cement Manufacturing, whatever. Pretty insulting, Dr. Amwa Dawson. He writes to Parliament, tells Parliament to order me to take back my document and to consult with him, and that what I'd done was not respectful or something, because I hadn't told him. Sometimes you got to be careful when some of these things come about. But he's a PhD, he's a doctor, so reading and comprehension shouldn't be a problem for him. He should go and read the Constitution.
Well, so that's the trade minister, and Dr. Dawson, you've spoken enough about the other aspects. So let me acknowledge the presence of the deputy ranking on the Trade, Industry and Tourism Committee of Parliament, the Honorable Yusuf Suleimana, is joining us on Zoom. Honorable, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Key Point.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
And let me say that don't demote me. Oh, I'm the ranking member.
Oh, I'm so sorry. In fact, I didn't know that you had been promoted. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my brother.
Ranking member on the Trade, Industry and Tourism Committee of Parliament. It's good to have you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. In fact, so please let Parliament change your designation on the website, okay? Because you are still the deputy ranking on the Parliament site.
All
in
right.
fact, I'm there right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
Let them change it. Okay. In fact, Professor, for example, start off with you. Hearing what the manufacturers have just indicated, the detail they have given, the basic reason for this increment we've seen in cement price over the last 2-3 months is the cedi depreciation, because clinker, which is a major component in cement manufacturing, all of it is imported. And as a result, they cannot do anything about it. The minister thinks otherwise. He wants an LI in place to check price regulation.
You know, Alfred, it's a difficult situation. And we will have to balance patriotism with the need for all of us to also be responsive to the realities on the ground. Look, if the cedi continues to depreciate, and if manufacturers are going to be important to be able to manufacture, definitely the depreciation of our currency would have an impact on the way they price their commodities or their final products. But in my view, the hikes in the final products that are sold to us, the hikes in the pricing of the final products that are sold to us must be commensurate with, well, the difficulties that the currency is suffering. And what I've seen in our part of the world is that people hide under the cloak of the difficulties of the currency to be unpatriotic and to want to milk Ghanaians dry. Look, let's go to when COVID broke. Everybody was looking for PPEs. And we know how some Ghanaians suddenly hiked the pricing of sanitizers. Okay? So, people would always want to, look, my local watches and you want to buy wachi, you know how much you buy. And then the next time you go there, you say, Mommy, give me the same quantity of wachi and for the same price you've been charging. Then she looks at you, you are in the queue and say, hey, a beson. Then you ask why. Say, but are you not in Ghana? Then so she's increased. Then the next week you go and then you say, give me this. And then she asks the same question.
They are responding to the state of the...
Yeah, but the point is this. Let the response be commensurate with the realities. What I'm saying is that people hide under the hardships or the difficulties that this currency is suffering to unnecessarily look for profits. Okay, and that should be worrying to Ghanaians. Okay, that should be worrying. I mean, you cook wachi, you've gone to buy Cindy rice for, if you like, 200 cedis, and then you have used it to prepare the wachi today. Tomorrow you are going to use the rest to prepare the wachi.
pricing hasn't increased. Then, whilst you have your old stock using to prepare your wachi, you hear that they have increased the pricing of your rice, of the rice that you used. But you've not gone to buy the one that has been increased. You see, people would want to hoard the one, want to increase their wachi based, their wachi based on the new pricing that they have not even gone to purchase. And I'm saying that that is also unfair and unpatriotic. So look, if the cedi is depreciating and so it must have an impact on pricing of products, so be it. But let those who are pricing these products be also considerate and patriotic, such that they do not hide behind the challenges we have to milk the good people of Ghana dry. You know what happened? I hope you heard about the Kalabule and the reason why the market, the whole market, the Makola market was burnt by Rawlings and his team. You know, people were hoarding products, basic commodities. So pricing were always, pricing of goods, of basic commodities, was always being increased. So you have milk, you have sugar, and then you have gari. They know that, look, today it is 1 cedi, but tomorrow it will be 2 cedis, and next week it will be 10 cedis. So if you go that you are going to buy gari and milk today, even though they have gari and milk and sugar and everything in stock, they will tell you that they don't have. They hoard it because they know that next week it will be 20 cedis. So they will hoard it today. People will go and queue and queue and queue, but they will tell you don't have, in anticipation that next week will be 20 cedis. So next week comes and then they will increase. And so Rollins and his people said they raided Makola and bent down all these hoarded products. We do not want to go into that era. And so, even though it is a liberalized economy, we should, at the same time, have a way of bringing about a certain price control mechanism, especially for the unpatriotic business people who would always want to milk the good people of Ghana dry. Now, in doing so, it is not people like K.T. Hammond who must lead the charge.
Why?
I do not see K.T. Hammond as a serious minister.
Why?
Because such an important intervention would require a certain dialogue and conciliatory approach. Because yes, they are looking for profits, but you are also trying to ensure that they don't milk the people dry. So you want to introduce LI and all that. You have to dialogue and engage them.
He says he's not mandated to do that.
Well, if you are not mandated to do that, then you are going to have the kind of backlash you're going to have. Okay, so in that case, they would also come in to tell you, to expose the challenges or the kind of realities that is making them also behave the way they are behaving, even though I admit that some are also taking unnecessary advantage of the situation. So my point is that every serious minister who wants to go on this tangent that would be almost similar to the old days of price control mechanisms would know how to dialogue with those who are going to be affected. And that is the way to go. You do not sit down and look at his response to the letter that these guys have democratic...
The one on the telephone we just spoke to is Dr. Dawson that he was referring to.
All right, so, but Dr. Dawson has also the right to speak up, okay, speak his mind and to petition Parliament and to do what he's done. But look at the dismissive attitude and dismissive response of the minister. And so I asked, who made him a minister? Sometimes, you see, governance of a developing country is too serious a business to be left into the hands of people who always want to lace whatever they do with comedies. It is a serious matter. It is not comedies. Okay, I see him, sometimes his attitude, his utterances, he behaves like like a comedian. And my point is that, please listen to me. My point is that we are talking about governance of a developing country. Okay, You need sobriety. You need seriousness. You need competence. You need statesmanliness. You need people who would be able to anticipate a problem, okay, and find proactive means of preventing the materialization of the problem. Didn't he know that if you just go, okay, to bring an ally, you go that route of going, seeking an ally to regulate prices? Didn't he know that in doing so without prior consultation with these people, it was going to suffer some of these, backlashes? Didn't he know as a minister? Okay, so he should have been proactive. And in my view, you see, appointments, ministerial appointments in our part of the world, okay, is not dependent on competence. Anybody benefits from political grace, and so they appoint you as a minister. The idea was that, look, you are going to be working with career public servants who are going to be schooling you as to what to do and what not to do. But we all know that we have politicized our public service, and the appointment and recruitment in the public service is now no longer based on meritocracy. And so within the public service, you have square pegs oftentimes in round holes, such that they do not even know what their job entails, to the point of being able to offer proactive advice to ministers who know nothing. And so the point is, yes, I favor some price control to ensure that unpatriotic Ghanaians who are into businesses do not milk the people of Ghana dry, using the hardships of the time, using the depreciation of our currency as a basis to always unnecessarily or astronomically, okay, increase the prices of the products that they sell to us. I favor that limited price control, but it should come about as a result of some dialogue, so that we build consensus. Let us dialogue to the point that we will be able to whip up the spirit of nationalism and patriotism in all, so that people will say that, look, even though things are hard, we have the right to increase our product to the tune of, if you like, 100%. But because we are patriotic, and because at the end of the day, it is the ordinary Ghanaian who suffers, we will not increase our product by the tune of 100%, but we will do 50%, such that the people of Ghana would not suffer unnecessarily. It is through dialogue that you'll be able to whip up this kind of sentiment in manufacturers and in people. You don't impose, but let us also warn, okay, the good people of Ghana, especially those who are in business, that their incessant increases, astronomic increases, using the basis of using the challenges we have, okay, to increase the pricing of their products, sometimes unnecessarily, would one day also receive a certain backlash from the people of Ghana. If people feel that you are doing it and you are doing it too much, so there's no regulation. You go and buy it and then sell it in there. So who determines? I mean, that's why they were saying, I mean, one pricing is like this, another price, you go to this market, is like that. People arbitrarily are increasing pricing, and they are all hiding under the cloak of, oh, why? Things are hard, things are difficult. Why are you not in Ghana? Don't you know what is good? I mean, that's the refrain, that's the cliche. If you go and things have been astronomically increased, then the only defense is, why are you not in the country? Don't you know what is going on? But we cannot allow unpatriotic people to continue on that tangent, or to continue using that refrain, that bogus refrain of saying, are you not in Ghana? Don't you know what is going on? To be inflicting hardships on us. Okay, let us not always blame the politician. Sometimes we must also blame our own self. Sometimes looking for all the money and all the profit, for what? One day you will die.
Well, Professor Jampo, thank you for this. But let me just go to the Honorable Yusuf Sulemana. Because there's a number of things that you have raised that I'm sure Dr. Dawson, who is listening, would respond to, because I asked him specific questions about the pricing mechanism that goes into cement pricing and the major considerations. And he says, for as long as the cedi continues to depreciate, there's not much they can do. But, Honorable Sulemana, so for you as a committee, I mean, in this whole process of, for instance, drafting an LI, at what point do you come in? Is it after the LI has been drafted that it is brought to your attention, or the minister would have to give you some notification that an LI is being put in place, or some consultation for that matter?
Alfred, let me say good morning to you, and good morning to the panelists as well as our viewers. Alfred, the truth of the matter is that the minister has not involved the Trade and Industry Committee in any way. It is a fact that he can come straight forward to lay a legislative instrument on the floor of Parliament, but there is a standard where normally we do what we call pre-laying. And to even start with the pre-laying, the minister involved or the minister in charge will first engage the mother committee to look at the LI very well before it now goes to the subsidiary legislative committee. They will also look at it before it is laid. The reason is that when a bill of this LI is laid, there's little Parliament can do in terms of its content. And so the standard has been that you do some consultations with stakeholders before it is laid. 21 working days after it's laid, it becomes a law. And so one would have thought that the minister will first of all engage the trade committee, then proceed to now meet with the subsidiary legislative committee before it is laid. But he came straight forward to lay it, and his attention was drawn to the standard that we have all set for ourselves, even though there's no any law suggesting that he should do pre-laying. At the end of the day, he agreed and went to the committee. At the committee level, so many issues were raised. In fact, even the legality of the LI was challenged, because he made reference to Section 80 of Ghana Standards Authority Act 1078, 2022. And so he was asked to even prove how that particular article relates to the powers that he's trying to use to lay the legislative instrument. That was difficult. So many issues came up there, and it was nearly rejected. And so he had to go back with some kind of attitude that whether the committee likes it or not, he was going to lay it. In fact, for me, the Minister of Trade and Industry should take Ghanaians very serious, and should take the laws of this country very serious. And also to ensure that in matters like this, it's not about using your executive powers, but also to dialogue. The cement manufacturers have availed themselves to the minister, to the committee, not today. They started this engagement with the seventh Parliament, talking about high prices of cement and the way they feel uncomfortable. I had the opportunity to do a statement on the floor of Parliament and to raise some suggestions. As I speak to you, the minister didn't do anything about it, even though he was not the one in charge at that time. But I drew his attention to the fact that there were certain things that he needed to do to ensure that price of cement comes down. One, you charge a fumigation levy of 0.50 USD per ton on clinker that is imported into this country. The truth of the matter is that you don't do any fumigation, yet you charge fumigation levies. That builds into the cost of production. And for that matter, ultimately, it will be part of the cost of sales, which the consumer will have to bear. So it's one reason why price of cement is going up. 2, at the ports, Terminal 1 and 2, cement manufacturers, when they import clinker, they are not allowed to bet at those terminals. What that means is that there will be congestion at Terminal 3, and that will lead to demurrage. And once the demurrage, they pay so much. The last time I checked, they were paying between $34,000 and $45,000 per ton. And this also built into the cost of manufacturing or production of cement, which ultimately will be borne by the consumer. Again, we are talking about taxes like COVID-19 levy and all of that. All are imposed on the production of cement in Ghana. Okay, so when you put all these things together, definitely the price will go up. I don't want to talk about the exchange rate and its impact on the production of cement. That has been dealt with already. Now, this minister also seems not to understand the environment very well. For instance, he finds it difficult to appreciate the fact that cement price in Accra is different from cement price in Bole.
Well,
he thinks that it should be uniform.
Yes, that's one of the issues that he raises. That why should the price in Kumasi, for instance, be higher than the price in Accra? He doesn't understand. He doesn't.
Exactly my point.
No justification for that, he says. No. I was slow enough. Yes.
Exactly my point. That means that he doesn't understand the environment, because when the cement is produced, say in Kumasi, or let's say in Accra, it has to be transported to Bole, and the transportation costs will have to also be put on the selling price. But if you sit with the manufacturers, there can be a way out in all these things. So for me, it's a refusal to engage them, it's a refusal to engage the committee is worrisome. But let me put on record that the minority is not saying that we are comfortable with high prices of cement and other commodities. What we are saying is that the approach is not sustainable, the approach is not lawful, the approach is not going to help us. And so the minister should do the needful. The minister should ensure that there's further engagement. And I have said several times that government can do something to reduce the price of cement, whilst we talk to the manufacturers to also look at what they can also do to reduce it further. That becomes sustainable. For instance, if government takes off the fumigation levy, it will definitely reduce prices of cement in the country. 2, if government allows the cement manufacturers to berth, let's say at Terminal 2 and 3, what it means is that there won't be traffic at the ports and that they won't be paying demurrage. And if they don't pay demurrage, you now have the moral right to tell them to also not add the cost of demurrage to the cost of production, and thereby increasing prices of cement. You can ask them to take it off, and they'll do it, because then that service is not rendered, so there shouldn't be any fees charged. And if we do this and now sit with them, they will reason with us and say that, okay, we are reducing by this margin because taking off the fumigation levy, giving us more places to be able to berth, and that reduces demurrage, or that takes off demurrage away, we are able to reduce the prices by this, because cost of manufacturing would have gone down.
Right.
You haven't done this. You don't seem to understand the environment, but you are rushing to Parliament to lay a legislative instrument because you think that the law allows you to do that.
But
it is not everything that you rush to do.
The trade minister doesn't understand the environment. This is the minister, for that matter. And why do you question his understanding of the environment which he is seeking to regulate?
I mean, he has exposed himself. If he says that the price of cement in Accra should be the same as cement of price in Bole, is he the one to carry the cement to Bole? Does he have vehicles to carry the cement to Bole free? that has to be inputted into the cost of sales. Okay? In any case, you have people who are into manufacturing of cement. Engage them. Is he aware that they pay them wage? If he's not aware, then it means that he doesn't understand his environment. Is he aware that even as they pay fumigation levy, no fumigation is done? We are told that the fumigation is done after they have taken a clinker away. That is not true. The last time we checked, no fumigation is done, yet they pay 0.50 USD per ton on clinker that is imported into this country. So for me, the minister, he's my uncle. He should calm down. The position he occupies is a public office. It is not his private business. And so he shouldn't deceive Ghanaians by saying that, oh, we want prices of cement to reduce, and that is why we are doing this. When in natural fact, that is not sustainable.
Okay.
Again, let me put on record that the minority is not saying that we are comfortable with high prices of cement. And like I said, I have had the cause to raise this several times on the floor of Parliament. I've engaged the media on this issue. And so I'm happy that we are involved in this conversation to ensure that we are able to reduce prices of cement. But the way to do it is not what the minister is pursuing.
I see. Anu Sulemana, thank you, but hold on a bit and don't go as yet. Let me clarify this from Dr. George Dawson Amwa. Dr. Amwa, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I was going to cut in. Please, just a point of question. My people are also questioning me. I'm a bishop, so if I can also be, the title can be used as a bishop, Dawson Amwa, yes, of the Anglican Church.
I'm so sorry. I'm just getting to know this. Bishop,
no problem about it. No problem about it. And also, just to caution that I'm not also into politics now. As a matter of fact, we are addressing issues.
Absolutely, yes. And I think that's quite clear. Don't be afraid.
Yeah,
okay? I really don't want you to. You've been expressing some fears for a while. So don't.
No. That is exactly what it is. I'm just being pushed to the wall, which of course I want to avoid.
No, I mean, yes, certainly. I'm only asking the questions. I don't think you've been pushed to the wall as yet. If that's
please.
Yes, if that has to happen, you will. But you know what?
Yes.
I mean, Bishop Dr. George Dawson Amwa, in May 2024, just last month, did the minister instruct the Cement Manufacturing Development Committee to direct you, the cement manufacturers, to immediately reverse an increase in the price of cement last month? Did that happen?
No, that I think it did not happen. Again, what is the basis? You see, cement production is technical. Like the last speaker actually tried to allude, it is a very technical process.
Okay.
A lot of analysis goes into production, manufacturing. You see, so in coming up with a price, it should just indicate or tell everyone that a lot of consultation, looking at the production cost, looking at its consequences, it's business oriented. And that's where I have the problem. In such industries, they are business oriented. Business. There is law.
Okay.
We have to be complied with. But we can't ignore the business and the operation of that entity.
Right.
So, just like a business-centered, industry-oriented has come up with a price, then from an office,
okay,
reverse the price. How would it work?
I see.
Without even giving a counter justification of that reversal. What is the counter? What is the basis? Meanwhile, that price came out based on certain factors which can be justified. So in your reversal, what is your counter justification? Which would definitely not be respected. Definitely not be respected. And again, I think all our discussion, and let's go back and conclude because I have a service to attend to this.
Okay.
The petition is not really, against the minister per se, or any effort or any concern that is in respect of the escalation of prices. Like I really said, I am a consumer myself. My brother is a consumer. Kenyans are consumers.
Right.
And I said it earlier. It is not out of fun that manufacturers get up and increase prices. That I can tell you.
Okay.
I have been in management of Gatton before. I have occupied the position of the market director of Gatton. So, and at the time, any time there's a price increase, honestly, it is really with reluctance because they see the effect, but they will not have any other option than to do it. So rather, I was really trying to rephrase whatever effort that the minister wants to do. Instead of regulating the prices, I would really suggest, or we would suggest that there should be a dialogue to see how we can stabilize cement price. Right. How we can stabilize. How we want this word. That it should be a dialogue with all stakeholders. Everyone is concerned in stabilizing the cement prices. Okay. Because, my brother, last year, let's go back. Since when was the last time we had this discourse? It didn't happen last year. It didn't happen 2 years ago. It's recent. So it means in previous years, cement prices have been stabilized. Okay. They have been stabilized. Just because of certain factors which were very conducive. So the tangent now, the route now that I will plead with the minister, my honorable minister. You know, he's also my a colleague. We all attended at the other college.
I see. That's good to know.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think
Let's meet. Let's dialogue. Okay. And which the cement manufacturers are prepared.
You are prepared to dialogue, right? You are prepared to dialogue, but he says that look, that he's not obliged to do that. And please hold on.
It will not work. So it's like, you want to tell the industry? Like I really said, investors are here to make profit, to make margin. So if there's a regulation which will not actually, encourage profit, what happens?
Right.
What happens? They close down.
Okay.
And this, I'm not anticipating that it should happen. But,
well, Bishop,
we should have a dialogue. This is what I believe should be the route.
Okay.
And it is clearly stated in the petition.
Okay.
That
I see.
We are prepared.
And it is that petition that he is even questioning why you think that you can use that petition to do anything at all.
I don't more or less understand.
All right.
So if you don't understand anything, I mean, is that not, the petition, it is not a route just to express your disagreement or whatever. So please, like I said, the petition is very clear. And again, also to use this platform to say that the petition was not asking the Speaker of Parliament to throw out whatever has been presented by the minister. That is not the petition. You read it.
Okay.
What we were suggesting to Parliament to decline it and make room for discussion, for dialogue.
Bishop Dr. Dawson Amwa, thank you very much. And I know you're going to stay on to do the listening. So continue the conversation. And Lawyer Martin Pebo, see, their focus, even for this dialogue they're having, asking for is the stabilization of the price of cement, not the regulation of it, as the minister intends to do. But if you look at the details of the LI, that's the Ghana Standards Authority, that's pricing of cement regulation 2024. We'll put portions of it on the screen for the benefit of those of listening on 3FM 92.7 and Beach FM and other radio stations across the country. It says the streamlining and regularization of the pricing of cement for wholesale and retail distribution in the country. That's one of the major purposes of this regulation. 2, the pricing of cement in the country in a fair and transparent manner. The prevention of pricing gouging in the pricing of cement and the promotion of competitive practices within the cement industry. And then the application of regulation, manufacturers of cement producers of raw materials for cement and suppliers, sellers, and distributors of cement are the ones who are going to be regulated by this LI. The price reporting and pricing regulation as stipulated in a supplier or retailer of cement shall each month, and this is it, each month, submit a report on the ex-factory price of the cement to the cement pricing committee. The committee shall each month publish a report on the average ex-factory price of cement as pertains in all the regions in the country on the website of the authority and any other medium determined by the authority. Also, a person shall not sell cement above the maximum price allowed or set by the committee, or vary the wholesale or retail price of cement without the approval of the committee. And a person who contravenes, this is the offenses and punishment. Now, this is where I bring it. A person who contravenes sub-regulation 2 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 2,500 penalty units and not more than 4,000 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 2 years and not more than 3 years. So if you violate this, you go in for up to 3 years if it becomes law. That's it.
No, but host, I beg you, before Martin comes, just a little, yeah. You see, with the greatest of respect to Bishop Doctor, I think listening to him, I'm a bit worried. You see, we don't achieve anything as a people if we always want to lace our public utterances and some of the things we do for Ghana by saying, I don't want to be pushed to the wall. I don't want to be. And you can see a certain fear, a certain greatest of respect to him. But it's like he's afraid. And look, we cannot bring about any changes in our part of the world if we don't have people who are bold and courageous. Look at what has happened in Kenya.
We'll get there.
Look at what has happened in Kenya. And so the other bit is that, look, government, Hammond must know that taxes are too much on these things. But Osofo must also know that it is not always true that the increases that they are increasing their products are always commensurate with the reality. Some are also hiding behind the difficulties to make the good people of Ghana dry.
It's a balanced approach that you take. Council, on the aspect of the regulation, in fact, the LI that I just put on the screen, the counter position is that instead of trying to do this, allow the market forces to determine what happens really with cement pricing, which has been the case over the period. Also taking into consideration what Professor Jampo is talking about. But if you look at the details of it, we could go in up to 3 years if this becomes law.
You know, when I saw the provision, what quickly came to my mind was you remember the imposition of restrictions, during COVID. The fines up to how many years, 10 years in jail, 4 years, etc. You remember? During COVID, yes, we had those laws and some people were thrown into jail, right? Unfortunately. Yeah, it's sad. I hope we never have to go back to those kinds of situations. Yes, okay. But you see, to propose that you want to make it an offense, right, for people who sell above the rates, etc., it's not new. Prof referred to our history during the PNDC era. Yes, and
EFRC, so, house cleaning, and PNDC.
All that. Yes. So those have happened before, but you ask yourself, where did that leave us? Naturally, immediately it produces some results, but the question is that, are those results sustainable? So sustainability is what we should be looking at. You see that, Mr. Ocansey, when you phrase the question, you are asking about leaving the market forces to determine, right? It's a very complex matter. Look, this matter is not that simple. When you say the market forces should determine, like as you say, is that the right approach? It's not easy to say so just here. That's how come it's better that they open a dialogue and then bring all the experts, because
there is nowhere to in this world that you allow the market forces to operate freely. No, there will always be government regulation. Always be government regulations, because you see, if you don't understand that businessmen are always
looking for profit.
Yes, that's it. That's their nature. Whilst we are here thinking humanitarian, when you see somebody poor, somebody hungry, that is what moves you. No,
and this is what Bishop should know. Okay. Bishop, you didn't ask Bishop this question.
Okay, that's okay. Yes.
So you see, that's the mistake we often make. You know, sometimes from our training, we are not trained to decipher that people are different. Some people are money thirsty. For them, money is their blood. Everything is money. They don't understand that let's be humanitarian, let's feed the poor. No, it's money. You'll find him with a lot of money, and even people in his family are starving. That's none of his business, etc., right? So simply, we can't leave everything to market forces, right? So that's how come I have some sympathies for K.T. Amon, except that it's very clear that he's going like a lone wolf. These are strong companies. Katie, you can't fight these guys alone. If it were easy to fight, you think your predecessors and all the people who came wouldn't have done it long ago? No, you can't. There are various ways they can sabotage, and very soon, even he, Katie, will be removed from office. This is an election year. Listen, these companies come together, they go and donate money to your party. You'll be removed in 3 seconds. So that's not how to fight business companies. No. You can't fight them like this anyhow openly. Trust me. But I remember Gassem during this NBC.
I think you
no, these are also very important, so that you know how big business. There's a way to fight.
But yes, the man must know how to go about his duty as a minister.
I get your point.
Yeah, so we are not on the offense.
Buga Takashi attitude.
Okay.
Are we in the military? Are we in the jungle? What?
That much baby was on a path. You say you have sympathies.
Yes, that's right. So I'm for policies that will bring down the prices of goods and services. Okay. Because listen, Prof said it several times.
Right.
Some of the goods and services in Ghana, you just see that, listen, we are just being fleeced, right? Because, you know, the society is weak. When it comes to consumer protection, we've not come together well. Can you imagine? We've left Kofi Kapito alone. You see Kofi Kapito, then I wonder what's his expertise. How many experts does he have? Meanwhile, you find experts all over. People are not interested. It's just like everybody is thinking about themselves, they and their families. And this thing that's happening, you read the history of other countries, and you find that, yes, they also went through the same. But so should we wait and go through everything? Can't we shorten our learning curve? Because in the Americans, you go through that, they'll tell you that, listen, in the 60s and 70s, because of the wars they fought, they say, you know, they didn't have much rest after World War II, the Vietnam War, etc. in the 70s. So when it came to the 80s, they said, no, we are no longer interested in this world affairs. Look, let's enjoy life ourselves, blah, 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 right? Yes. So when you see what's going on in Ghana, you find experts, you have people who have a lot of influence, lots of money, but they are not willing to step in to protect society. You look at it like, okay, this is happening in other societies. Right. But you will reap this reticence, you reap this failure to engage society, you reap this failure to help. Because when you don't, and this economy crashes, what happens? You won't be safe in your house. You won't be safe because people will take over all over. You won't be safe. Okay. So for me, one thing is very clear. If it's possible to dialogue and do everything that will ensure that prices come down, I'm all for it. I'm all for it because we are really suffering. I'm sure you know how every day we come to sit down here, we talk about the prices of tomato, pepper, yam, etc. People not being able to pay their medical bills and the rest. Earlier in the week, once again, I saw another story on the LEAP project and the way the payments are not regular and the way citizens are suffering, right? Yeah, so the economy is really, really, really tough. It's tough. We are living on the edge. I don't know how many times we have to repeat it. We are living on the edge. Except President Kufuor and his ministers who are enjoying, right? But the rest of us is difficult. The fact that you can find food for yourself as an individual and your family, that doesn't mean everything is well. It comes at a great cost. But how about people in the villages, people, other family members, etc.? So we are not happy. If Katie can maybe step back, reorganize, and engage them well so that they can come together, put their heads together, and do things in a manner that can bring prices down, we are all for it. But to just sit there and think that you pass a law and say people should go to jail. Remember the COVID one, just a few people went. Later on, Ghanaians stood up and said, no, you can't just jail citizens like that. And that was the end of the prosecutions, wasn't it? So Katie should just remember even the COVID one that was leading to deaths. We said no, enough of the prosecutions. So the prosecutions didn't go that far. So just writing in the law that you prosecute somebody is not enough. You remember also when we did our demonstration in September, there were this Oliver's demonstration trying to go to Jubilee House, right? And everything. Yeah, the police were saying Oliver and Co were arrested. Did you see prosecution? Ghanaians stood up and said no. When you are governing badly and citizens rise to demonstrate against your bad governance, the answer is not to say you will take people to court and jail them. So please, Katie, I've given you two very recent examples that you should look back and rather go and engage. Don't think that just writing laws that you jail people means that can work. No, Ghana doesn't belong to you alone, especially when you are even about to leave office. Your government is performed very poorly, very shambolic. When I look back, every day I wake up, I'm like, hey, I can't wait for Ghana's second independence on December 7th, right? So Katie should engage. He should engage.
Well, Honorable Sulemana, also a quick one before I let you go. From the committee's perspective, having listened to all of this, both from consumers, like my guests who are in studio, plus the concerns that the cement manufacturers have raised, then the underlying issue here is the lack of engagement or consultation by the minister. But the minister was quite clear in his words that it is not an obligation for him to even consider consultation. So as a trades committee, what are you going to do to get him to consider this very important element of consultation in the entire process of getting this LI through?
Yes, so Alfred, when we first saw the instrument, the legislative instrument, I called the chairman of the Trade Committee, Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, but I was with him. So I showed it to him, and he said he's not aware, he has not been consulted. So I said, so what do we do? Our recommendation is that the minister should go back and engage stakeholders. All of us are together when it comes to reducing prices of commodities in Ghana. And so we want to appeal to him to get back to the drawing board, sit with those who matter, let's judge up, so that we can have a sustainable way of reducing prices, not just of cement, but other commodities. Like the other speakers said, prices of goods and services in Ghana are unacceptable, and something must be done, and we all agree to that. But the approach is where we have a problem with. Today, if cement manufacturers decide to come together and to stop manufacturing for a while, what happens? You cause shortages, you will encourage smuggling and all of that. And we don't like that. If there is a way to do this without creating problems, why not? But you see, the minister should be mindful of his attitude of choosing certain things and leaving others. A couple of weeks ago, I drew his attention to the fact that there were some 3 cement manufacturers in Asante region who were not meeting standards. It took us time to get him, and not just him directly, to get Ghana Standards Authority to close those factories down. Shortly after they were closed down, these companies started operations. I've spoken to him several times to follow up and ensure that they stop production. He's not mindful of that. He's not interested in doing all those things. Yet, he's rushing to come to Parliament to come and lay in a manner that will not give us the result that we all want. We are together with him that we want to reduce prices of commodities in the country. But what we are saying is that the approach is not the best. And so he should go back, engage stakeholders, and all of us should come on board. The question I want to ask the minister is, how much does it cost to produce a bag of cement? Does he know that? Now, if you don't know that, how do you know that they are over-profiting? It is only when you sit with them, take interest in knowing how much it costs to produce a bag of cement. Then, of course, you go to the market and you know how much a bag of cement is sold. Then you can now know the margin that the manufacturers are getting. Then you are able to tell them that, look, this is a profit margin you are making, which is not acceptable, and so we want you to reduce it by this. And in doing so, government is going to take off, let's say, the fumigation levy as our way of contributing to ensuring that prices of cement are reduced. When these things happen, I can tell you, there won't be the need for any legislation.
Honorable Suleiman, I appreciate your time on this, and thank you very much, because in the coming days, now the consumers and also the manufacturers will be looking to your committee to do the needful on this matter. The Honorable Yusuf Suleimana is the ranking member on the Trades, Industry and Tourism Committee of Parliament. Thank you for joining us on Key Point. Thank you so much. Also, Bishop Dr. George Dawson Amoa, in fact, both of them were to join us here in studio, but have other engagement they couldn't make it. In fact, Honorable Suleimana has another engagement, reason why he couldn't make it. But Bishop Dr. George Dawson Amoa, who is the president of the Cement Manufacturers Association of Ghana, we're just getting to know this morning that he is also bereaved. He lost his wife, and they are in a mourning mood, but he graciously also agreed to speak to us on the telephone this morning. Our condolences once again. But your point well made there, and whether or not that is also going to be a matter of consideration for the minister going forward is also another issue. The takeaway is that consultation has to happen for some level of stabilization of pricing of cement. Thank you so much. And that actually leads us to the next issue, because, for example, you drew some parallel lines between this posture and, for instance, what happened in Kenya. Okay, that's going to be our next conversation, because there's some nexus with what we saw and what is happening. I want you to take a look at a video of the protests in Kenya, and I'll tell you why this spontaneous protest actually took place. And there are a number of interests that Ghana has in there, including the fact that when the youth, the protesters, besieged the Parliament of Kenya, we had 5 of our members of Parliament in that Kenyan Parliament building. And they've been telling us their own first-hand experience of what they saw and how that should influence our governance as a country and as a continent. Because the dynamics of this protest in Kenya is that there was no leadership. It's not like some Kumimpeko reloaded that Council Lawyer Martin Pebu is a leader, and so you can identify him and say you are going to interview him. It's not like hands off our hotels or Occupy yes, Jubilee House.
That's
Occupy
right.
Jubilee House.
Yes.
So you can identify Oliver Bakavomo as a leader. What happened in Kenya had no leadership. It was spontaneous. The president and ministers didn't know who to talk to. No leadership. And then there was some impact. Take a look at this. So that's the crowd of protesters on the streets of Nairobi and other parts. In fact, there were other pockets of protests across the country. So it was not just limited to the capital. Then they stormed Parliament, the Kenyan Parliament, because they got wind of information that on that day, there was going to be the second reading of this financial bill that was going to impose taxes on Kenyans and going to eventually increase the cost of living there. Take a look at the video. And for the benefit of those who are listening to us on 3FM 92.7, I'll describe it. Now, let's look at that. You see a crowd of young people making their way into the Parliament building of Kenya. And here's what happened. This is based on account of one of the 5 Ghanaian MPs who were in this building. He said the youth went through the kitchen. Went through the kitchen and got access to the chamber. And when they got to the kitchen, they ate all the food. They ate all the food in the kitchen, the food that was meant for the MPs. Yeah. They feasted on the food. Right. And afterwards, yes, this is they breaking the flags, getting into the Senate. They actually forced their way in, and this is they eating the food. Yes, they had a lot to eat. Now,
Christmas came early.
Indeed. Now, let me show you the video when they got into the chamber of the Kenyan Parliament. The MPs had been evacuated through an underground tunnel. That's how they got out. Through an underground tunnel, including our 5 MPs who were there. Now, this is what happened when they got into the chamber. Take a look.
I'm here to address you. You must go. Ruto must go. Kwapa na hatuendi. Kwapa tunalala huku na hatuendi. We don't fear you guys. You hypocrites. We don't fear you. Mr. Speaker, we don't fear you. Tuko ndani. We stomped inside.
And they're trying to ensure that that particular finance bill 2024 is rejected.
Well, so let me give you an idea of why the Kenyan protests took place. And that's also going to be on the screen in a bit. Why the Kenyan youth went on this protest. There's going to be an initial tax imposition on bread, cooking oil, and others. The proposed implementation of a 16% sales tax on bread. That was in the financial bill. Also, the imposition of a 25% duty on cooking oil. Plus, the raising of taxes on financial transactions, a new annual vehicle ownership tax equivalent to 2.5% of the vehicle's value, a 16% tax on goods and services used exclusively for constructing and equipping specialized hospitals. There's going to be a 16% tax on equipment used to construct specialized hospitals with at least 50 beds. An increase of import taxes from 2.5 to 3% of the item's value payable by importers at the ports. And this is what the Kenyan government had been saying to justify this. The fact that they wanted to raise some $2.7 billion in additional taxes to reduce the budget deficit and also state borrowing. And Kenya's public debt is at 68%, debt to GDP, 68, higher than the 55% of the GDP recommended by the World Bank and the IMF. So this defines the anger that we saw on the street. And this had actually been building up. We only got to know, or the world got the attention just about on Tuesday, Wednesday. But if you follow the international media, this started as far back as on the 20th, thereabout. 19th, 20th, when the Gen Z movement started protesting and raising concerns. So it was about the seventh day. It was the seventh day or so of that's the day 7. That's the videos we're seeing of this protest. Now, is this limited to just Kenya? What exactly does this tell all of us on the continent? What message is in there for the governance on the continent? And what are the major takeaways? Let me welcome Professor Bafo Ajimendua. He is a former senior governance advisor to the United Nations and also a governance expert. Professor Bafo Ajimendua, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Key Point. If you can unmute for me, please.
Yeah. Good morning, and thanks for having me, and good morning to my good friends with you in the studio.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd want to start the conversation with you. And reason being, because you haven't had some experience in contributing to shaping the governance, not only in Ghana, but in Kenya as well, and on the continent largely. What message is in this protest that we saw in Nairobi, and the dynamics of that protest, to the extent that the youth did not want anybody to be identified as a leader of that group? Because when you listen to them, and some of them who spoke to the international media, they indicated that there's been few times that they planned this protest, and then the government will meet the leaders and convince them with some goodies. And then, so they back out of the protest. So they decided that this is what they want to do. What's the message in there?
Well, thank you. I think what is happening in Kenya is a very, very strong lesson for Africa generally. And the crisis over there reflects 3 main crises on the continent. One is what I see as a crisis of democratic practice in our continent. Second, we can also talk about the crisis of leadership / governance in Africa. And of course, the perennial problem of how our economies have no legs to stand on, and therefore African countries or leadership will simply go out and borrow and borrow and borrow. What triggered this crisis, as all of us know, was the attempt by the government to raise some billions of dollars to meet its debt obligations, which are due, I understand, sometime this year in October or so. So for the government, it was just simply easy to turn around and slap a number of taxes on citizens as a way of raising money. That this and previous governments have irresponsibly accumulated recklessly money to do things that are never done. And this is the cumulative effect of these kinds of reckless borrowing that many African countries can get themselves involved in. So if you take democracy, certainly certain aspects of the way Africans will practice democracy are not working for us. And therefore, there is a need to rethink democratic practice in Africa. Not that Africa doesn't deserve democracies, mind you. There are 2 sides, as I always insist, the practice democracy and the principle democracy. I think the practice is a problem because we may have adopted certain practices that are mainly Western, have no historical links to African societies, no traditional links, no cultural links, and yet we go on practicing these things as if we invented this practice or we are simply aping the Western world in that. So that's one issue. The other issue is the issue of leadership and governance generally. You see, and I think if you listen carefully to the Kenyan young people, which I salute for what they did, and you mentioned this idea of they not having a leadership, it was spontaneous, no doubt at all. You see, the leadership that we have in our countries on the continent, there's a serious disconnect between leadership and citizens, despite what our constitutions say all the time. There is that kind of distance because, first, these young people, as they told us in the many interviews that we all witnessed, they see a distinct lifestyle of their leaders from what they know in the country. In other words, a small group of people, call them the political elite, seem to have carved something for themselves in the country, and they become the major consumptions of the wealth of the country, whereas the vast majority of the people are deprived. Look, they're talking about the fact that there's serious unemployment in the country. Thousands of young people finish school. They have nowhere to go, just as we have in Ghana. Then they look at the lifestyle of these politicians, from parliamentarian to the presidency and all of them. In fact, yesterday, a clip quickly flashed on Al Jazeera showing one parliamentarian whose front house had about 3-4 cars, and they were all high-priced vehicles, Mercedes, Range Rover, whatever, lineup. So these are the things that the young people see. And they wonder, is this what democracy is all about? Is this just for the elite to eat well and for us to starve? So these were the comments that you got. So their anger was not simply against the taxation. That was the immediate trigger. But there have been some accumulated vengeance against these political elites in terms of how they are managing their countries. And that is a big lesson for all of us. The divide between the elites and citizens, that divide is getting wider. It's getting wider. So that when a country is facing a crisis, such as the Kenyans are facing, such as Ghanaians are facing, and that many countries are facing, and the leadership is not looking at the expenditure side, most of it goes to service public officials. And that's why when President Ruto conceded, he said, well, we're going to reduce this, we're going to reduce expenditure. They should have known it long ago that if you draw your national budget and there's a deficit you want to fill, you don't necessarily go to the people who are already deprived and tax them, bread, oil, basic items for survival. You place taxation on it. And you forget, as the Kenyan young people are saying, that you yourself, you are wearing designer suits, designer shoes, designer everything, and driving in high-priced vehicles. That tangible perception that they have is what really made them angry all this while. And as I say, the bill, the finance bill that has now been withdrawn, was the immediate trigger. So the first lesson we learn here is that the elites, we the older people, older generation, let's put it that way, we have mortgaged the future of these young people through reckless leadership. Borrowing to a point where a nation like Kenya, with all the resources that it has, now is forced by international capital to impose such taxation as a way of clearing some of these debts that are due. Okay, so we can look at this from many angles, but I think it's clear to me that the situation in Kenya is not uniquely Kenyan. It cuts across most African countries, including our own. And therefore, our leadership should begin to sit up, and all the conversations that we've been having for years, for months, for weeks, almost every day in the country, about leadership. The other day, or this week, I think, Lord Boatin gave a very interesting lecture at UPSA.
Yes.
And he highlighted leadership. For him, the issue here is leadership. Leadership that is simply self-aggrandizing, leadership that is not responsive to the needs of people. In the case of Kenya, if Ruto has been responsive earlier, I don't think now we hear 30 young people, the life of 30 young people will not have perished. But even if you look at his initial public response, that statement he gave, trying to be militaristic, so to speak, trying to be hard, which of course triggered more violence, and then finally coming and looking humiliated, now conceding that now you should listen to them. So this whole concept of political efficacy in democracy, where leaders must be responsive to their citizens when serious issues such as this comes about, I think was one of the downsides, the inability of the political leadership to be responsive quickly to the demands of these young people. And if, in fact, I know the Kenyan issue is more complicated, perhaps more complicated than I'm presenting it, because, again, there's this letter from their National Intelligence Service having some tiff with the, they call it deputy president, not vice president, as we have it here.
Yes.
So there are so many dynamics here. But the bottom line is poor management of national resources, leadership and the lifestyle of leadership, and the economy that will continuously make it dependent on the international economy. And finally, this issue of democracy that we have taken up without critically examining it to make sure that the practice reflects the culture, the people, the traditions, so that we can certainly, in some ways, avoid these Western impositions and creatively bring in systems and values that will truly reflect the African spirit.
It's very, very important derivations in there. And the analysis brings a number of things, Professor Bafaj-Mendia, into some clear perspective and context. Talk about the democracy, the type of democracy that we are practicing on the continent, which is not limited to Kenya, by the way, as you indicated quite clearly. And the characteristics of what's happened or what precipitated this protest and what we are experiencing here in our country as well. Poor management of natural resources. And you concede, you are part of the older generation. You say, you have failed the young people. You have failed us, right? That goes without saying. Your generation.
I admit. I admit. But unfortunately, most of our leaders don't even think about that. They don't realize that, in fact, their policies and behaviors, everything, is leading us to a precipice where in a few years, a few decades time, most of the African countries will literally be bought back by these foreign donors and others who think, you know. So I think leadership needs to sit and think. You see, African leaders, they are too involved with self-promotion, I don't know, a self-aggrandizement. I mean, a president, an African country, knowing how poor your country is, knowing how dependent your economy is, you are not even thinking of how you delimit the dependency of the international economy, but rather taking delight, as the case of Ghana, 17 times going to the IMF. Then, when you are hard-pressed and they put the screws on you, you go negotiate a little bit. They give you a little room to maneuver. Then you come back and you celebrate that, hey, we've made it, we've restructured, so we have saved this. Look, the fact is that we are simply destroying the future for our young people. That's why I say we have failed them.
This is a reality check there, because you see, that misplaced celebration you talk about is what we are experiencing, is it not? I mean, and so when you talk about the disconnect between what leadership experiences and what the people are experiencing, which is not supposed to be the case, what is the cure for that? Or what has resulted in that disconnect? Because as you indicate, the Constitution dictates something different. The practice of it It's very different from what we're supposed to be experiencing. So there's a wide difference between what the elected are experiencing and what the persons who elect them are experiencing. So even when you are complaining, it is misunderstood to be you doing politics, is it not?
That's correct. That's correct. Because somehow political leadership, I don't know, it seems to have been equated with the imperial leadership. And African governments tend to lavish, they tend to lavish so much privileges to themselves. Look, in this country, and I'm speaking authoritatively because I've seen the appointment letters of ministers and other state officials. My friends are in government, not just this government, in previous governments. And I saw the appointment letters. If you look at what we have piled up to service one individual who is serving us, the whole notion of, the whole concept of service is even not what we need to go by, because they are not serving us. We are rather serving them. Because if you look at what we have piled up on one person, your car, your garden boy, the colonial government, the white folks, when they were ruling us, they had garden boys and cooks. It is still maintained in our current structure. Okay? So if you spend about 70% of your revenue in lavishing public officials, and this is not just only politicians, by the way. In our country, not only politicians. Look, I can tell you, even civil servants, junior civil servants, even university vice chancellors, they get cars for free. And some of them have a way of 2 years before they are retired from civil service, they buy a brand new car, a garage it, and 2 years they are sold to them at a basement price. It goes on, everybody knows it. In fact, this campaign about state assets not to be sold to public officials, I hope those who are advocating that are not simply looking at politicians, because it cuts across the board. So about 70%, 75% of our revenues go to service public officials, not for development. That's why we have terrible roads in our country. A chunk of our revenues goes to service individuals, lavish lifestyle, all on the people. Then you run to Washington, I want to restructure my debt. Then you come back and impose taxes on your people to pay. Poor people who are already deprived because the resources that have been given to them to manage, they mismanage it. You go and sign contracts and they give you 5% and you're happy. It's better than 2%. You see? So in fact, Ghana, we need to be looking up now. See what the young soldiers in Burkina and Niger, what they are doing to their former colonial, cutting off these links with them. Of course, it might look radical for some people, but the fact is that they are realizing that leadership, especially those of us so-called educated, who use education to cheat, to steal, that is what we need to look at.
We cannot continue to compare ourselves with dwarfs and always think that we are tall. And that is going to be a very, very deceptive... Yes, Prof, I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Yes, if you want to compare yourself to giants, not dwarfs, and Ghana, we like to talk about Singapore, Malaysia, even Rwanda. We forget to look at the kinds of, the quality leadership that these countries have. That's the difference. Singapore, recently, last year, I think, they had a new president. I wish all of us studied the process of selecting a prime minister in Singapore. The process. It's not like any Tom, Dick, and Harry, you move in with money, so I want to be president of Ghana, you buy cars, you go around, and if you are lucky, they vote for you. No. Go to Singapore and study their system, so that when you are saying, oh, Ghana should have been like Singapore, then you know what you're talking about. Because most of us cite Singapore and Malaysia without even looking at the processes of selecting their leaders. That is the difference. Kagame, 20 years, some Democrats are complaining, oh, he's been there for too long. Too long? Go and look what has happened in Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Okay? And then again, I argue, it's not just longevity in office, because if it were longevity in office, we have had one person who was a leader continuously for 19 years in this country. 19 years. First 11 years, military dictatorship. It was the generalism of whatever we did. Next 8 years, elected president. Did anything change in this country? So it's not just longevity. It's longevity plus quality leadership. The vision that you have for your country. We don't have that.
Longevity plus quality leadership. Professor Bafa Jimendia, thank you. And please stay with me because we're having this conversation all together with my guests in studio and plus yourself. And thank you for this very insightful initial analysis of what's happened in Kenya. In fact, and what is happening. I've just gotten a message from a friend of mine, Professor Rams, for example, who is watching us as well in Botswana. And good morning to Moenzi Emmanuel. Good morning to you. I was in, for example, he says, Alfred, kindly note that Tanzanian youth have also started their own protest. So there's something happening in Tanzania as well that we're keeping an eye on. But Professor Bafa Jimendia touches on a number of things. He says the type of democracy, the disconnect between leadership and citizens, the older generation which he is part of submitted failed us, young people. Because as we're seeing now, misplaced celebrations where you pile up so much debt, go to the IMF, you get debt relief, and then you celebrate. That he's not the only one who is incensed about that. And then the poor management of natural resources. It's a diagnosis of what happened in Kenya and has direct resemblance to what is happening in our country and even beyond, for example.
I do not think I am even worthy to disagree with a great mentor of mine like Professor Bafo Ajimendia. I mean, he's an accomplished scholar and is someone we've all looked up to growing up. I very much agree with his position on this matter. But the little I want to add is that, yes, you see, leadership is everything. You see, leadership is the cause. Everything else is effect. Now, so leadership has failed. There is no doubt about this. But what I want to add is that there's been no way, or there are no ways of correcting the failed leadership crisis that we have. Okay, so if something is failing or has failed, how do we ensure that we get it back on track? Unfortunately, see, ours is a double jeopardy. Leadership has failed, and it appears that there is no corrective, or there are no corrective measures to address such crisis of leadership failure. Okay, those days in the lead up to independence and also immediately after independence, if you like, right up to the period before the inception of the Fourth Republic, young people in Ghana were referred to as the conscience of the nation. They formed one constituency, and they decided on who must govern, and they decided on who must be axed from government when they felt that leaders had failed. Okay? Yeah. So you had young people serving as the conscience of the nation, deciding on who must be in government. True. And also deciding on who must be kicked out when he failed to protect or to live up to expectation. Unfortunately, in our part of the world now, especially Ghana, leadership has failed, but we do not also have
the cohort of the citizenry that we referred to as the conscience of the nation. We don't have them again. Now, we have been polarized, so much polarized on partisan lines, such that this polarization has created a safe haven for political to thrive. This polarization has now created the opportunity for those who do not want to govern well to thrive, because they know that there is no way that young people who were described as the conscience of the nation and they formed a constituency. When I say youth have formed a constituency, what I mean by that is that young people have come together and it is regardless of partisan coloration. Our politicians know that, you see, soon after we got to the Fourth Republic, what they did was that they went to the various campuses acknowledging the role of young people in making regimes that did not serve the interests of the people unpopular. Acknowledging this, they decided to go to the various campuses of the tertiary institutions and to set up their branches there. So TAIN, TESCON, and all that. And that was the beginning of the division or polarization of the front of young people in Ghana. And so once they have succeeded in doing this, now they realize that, look, even if we are doing what is wrong, we would still have our young people supporting us. In fact, if one set of youth group decides to go on demonstration against what is wrong, we would always have another set of youth group also countering that demonstration. And so all these things result, or what happens, the effect of this is that it gives room for bad governance. Leaders will not sit on their toes, because the MPP now knows that regardless of how incompetent and how badly they govern, their support base would not have that conscience. They would not be able to call them out. They know. Okay, but you see, the Kenyan example, the people there, they were supporters of different political parties. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. They were supporters. They were not NDC supporters or MPP supporters who were fighting against one regime or whatever. You saw the utterances or the speech given by the vice president. Okay. Yes. Can you imagine a vice president making a speech in Ghana now in a manner that seemed to take on the decision of his president? It doesn't happen. Everybody is flipped into line. Okay, but the people there, young people of Ghana, I'm talking to you. What happened in Kenya? The young people there, they formed a constituency, meaning they looked at the impact of the finance bill on their lives. And they said that this would not serve us well. This would impose hardship on us. And so they said that they were tired with politicians telling them to tighten their belts, and then they eating and then loosening their belts and sleeping under both air conditions and fan. For some of the politicians, when they chop and their belly is full, air condition is not enough for them, so they would put on the air condition, double air condition, and put on fan, and they are relaxing. Okay, so these guys, they looked at what was happening and said, no, enough of that. And so they formed one constituency and they decided to demonstrate just to be able to force the government to do what is right. And let me tell you, the people of Ghana, the young people of Ghana, sometimes it is so amazing. These guys in Kenya who went to demonstrate, things are better for them than things are for you. Look at all the economic indicators in Kenya and compare it to the economic indicators in Ghana, and you see that they are better off. Things are better for them than things are for us. Okay, the last time I went to Kenya, I was sad.
Why?
Just look at the airport. The airport is littered with KQ. I said the airport is littered with aeroplanes that belongs to Kenya. Kenyan Airlines, Kenya Airways, littered. You cannot even count. Then you move to Ghana. We don't even have one aeroplane. I can look at the let me look at the indicators economic. Look, interest rate on loan in Ghana at the moment is more than, let's say 29. Officially, it's 29%. In Kenya, it is 13%. Yet they mobilized to do what they've done. Depreciation of currency since January 2023. In Ghana, it is 54%. In Kenya, it is 34.6%. Yet, they saw that there was a challenge and they mobilized. Inflation rate is 23.1%. In Kenya, it's 6.6%. Unemployment rate in Ghana, it is 14%. In Kenya, it is 6.6%. So it means a lot of Ghanaians are not employed. A lot of Kenyans are employed. Yet when they saw what was wrong, they mobilized and demonstrated against it. You can look at the total debts to GDP of Ghana in 2024 and of Kenya in 2024. And that of Ghana is 83.6%. In Kenya, it is 69%. So the economic indicators favor Kenyans. So it's technical, so you can say that they are well-to-do. The young people in Kenya are well-to-do than the young people in Ghana. Yet, when things are wrong, when things are not going on right in Ghana, instead of all of us coming together to call out the politician, we allow ourselves to be polarized on party grounds. And what is even worrying and what sometimes saddens me is that when you are fighting for the young man today and you are thinking about his future tomorrow, the very people you are fighting for now begin to fight you. What do we need? I always say that by the grace of God, where I've gotten to in my life as a young man, if God decides not to bless me again, I will thank him. I'm very grateful. What am I looking for again? But some of these things that we do it for our fellow young people. We do it for the future of the country. But excessive partisanship, as I've always indicated, breeds political madness. And because of such political madness, young people are not able to form one constituency to protest and to insist that the right thing be done in a manner that secures their present conditions, in a manner that improves their lot, and in a manner that assures them of a certain comfortable future. We are not interested in doing that. People are interested in handouts, small monies, coins that are given to them to be on social media, to be insulting people that they are supposed to be learning from. But if you do that, I'm saying for some of us, by the grace of God, we are working hard to secure our future. But what will be your future? And so my worry is that, yes, leadership has failed. But how do we correct this failure? One potent mechanism for correcting this failed leadership crisis is for us to be able to keep our leaders on their toes, call them out, and let them experience the fact that we have the power that they want to exercise. You know, Ruto, when he started, he was just running his mouth, saying all manner of things. And the young people said, well, we will teach you where power lies. And these are people, I don't know, the human beings, the young people in Kenya, they are not more human beings than the young people in Ghana. I've been to Senegal before when they wanted to demonstrate against what was wrong. They demonstrated constantly for 3 days, continuously for 3 days, until the changes that they were looking for got corrected. General Gay in Côte d'Ivoire, at one point in time, he was misbehaving, and the young people there decided that, look, we didn't want you in office. They demonstrated and they all marched, okay, to wherever to their presidential mansion to kick him out. Kenyans have also shown the way. So they are not like us. As for we As for us, when we organize demonstration, it starts in the morning, and then they fire one tear gas, and then somebody will pass. I'm going to buy wache and come. Then he will pass, but before he realizes he's gone home. I'm also going to buy roasted plantain and come. Then before you realize he's also gone. Within the next 10-20 minutes, the place is dissipated, and what is wrong with us, fellow Ghanaians, fellow young people? I am telling you that the only way we can guarantee our future is to ensure that our leaders work in a manner responsive to our interest. For now, there is leadership failure. One mechanism for prepping them up, one mechanism for correcting such failed leadership, okay, is for us to be able to come together and to keep them on their toes, okay? I do not want to say, and I don't wish what happened in Kenya happens in Ghana. You don't have to burn parliament or destroy property. People don't have to die for things to be corrected or for government to be responsive. And that's why it is worrying when you hear or when you see the intransigence of leadership. It is worrying when leaders are, per their attitude and per their behavior and per their response, they look like, look, the more you say it, the more we do it. And more. It is worrying. We don't want to, some of us, to be responsible on our part to advocate that Ghanaians should look at what has happened in Kenya and also go on demonstration and burn our houses, our parliament houses and other public buildings. We cannot say that. But the point is that governments would also not listen to the challenges and to the plight of the people. You are always finding people, this regime was coming into office and he said, look, so many nuisance taxes, there's tax A, tax B, there are nuisance. They got into power and they found ways and means of bringing about the same taxes that they described as nuisance and even manufactured more. Up to now, we are still paying COVID-19 recovery levy. And we've been talking about it. It's like the more you talk about it, the more they don't want to listen. And so there is no governmental responsiveness. How do we bring about this? How do we check this? We can only check this when our young people decide to allow themselves to be restored their glory in those days that they were referred to as the conscience of the nation. Can we go back to those days where young people will come together? Look, when Parliament decided that they were going to construct a new chamber, let me give them an example. When Parliament decided that they were going to construct a new chamber, young people across the political divide all came together and said that no, this one we can't allow to happen. And when they said no, it didn't happen. So if things are not going on well, why can't we come together? So MPP youth, NDC youth, what is wrong with you? Why can't we all come together to say that, no, this one is right, let us all support. This one is wrong, let us oppose. We can't do that. If we can't do that, then I'm telling you, today you are paid as a social media political laggard to be on social media, to be insulting people that you are supposed to be learning from. You can go on like that, but you see, power is transient. Tomorrow, the one dishing out these coins to you, you get up from the house in the morning, you tell your wife and children that you are going to work, and the work you do is to be on social media, receive 100 cedis, receive 10 cedis, and be insulting people. Tomorrow, the one who is paying you for this will not be there. And if he's not there because power has changed, what will you be doing? Why can't we come together to advocate that the right things are done such that we all can have a certain assured future? Right. You are there, you are feeding, you are contributing to the debates of, let me bring it back again, Dutch passport and PhD. Why are we even doing that? Okay. It's because you don't have a future. But we can only have a future if we come together to keep politicians on their toes. See, they are not angels. So long as they know that there are no screws to tighten them, so long as they know that we are gullible, so long as they know that some of you, even if they are wrong, you find good reasons to whitewash what they have done that is wrong, they will continue to misbehave. But let us take some lessons from Kenyans, not that we should go and destroy public property, but let us take lessons from them from the angle that they all closed their ranks, irrespective of their partisan colorations. They came together to call out the president, and so at the end of the day, they've received a positive outcome, from their demonstration.
And it's important, for example, that you, thank you for that, and you make reference to examples of what has happened in Ghana before and the results of it as well. Now, the IMF, as you indicated, and let me just put some clarification to some of the indicators that you put across earlier. There was a forecast by the IMF which indicated a consistent decline in the debt to GDP ratio in the next 6 years. And I think that's where you make the reference. So just to put it in proper context, in April 2024, if just for those who are raising questions about some of the indicators, if you look at the Fiscal Monitor report, there's a document you can find on the IMF website, the Fiscal Monitor 2024 April. The fund actually said Ghana's debt to GDP will plummet to 69.7% or about in 2029, but in 2024, the debt to GDP ratio is estimated at 83.6. So that is the context. And so what Professor Jampo mentioned is indeed consistent with the fiscal.
No, but there's somebody controverting that. Look at us.
So I just wanted to...
The hypocrisy, when times are hard and you are talking about it, then people are asking, where is he getting his indicators?
Relax.
I mean, what is wrong with us?
I'm just...
always trying to know. The point is, people are always trying to find excuses or reasons to defend what is wrong.
Okay, so
if things are hard, can't you see? Don't you go to market? But the fact that you people get monies free and you are paid and you don't spend like the ordinary people spend, it doesn't mean that those who are going into difficulties should not be talking. It doesn't make sense to me.
I want you to look at something that Peter Obi, who is the former presidential candidate on the Labour Party in Nigeria, posted on his Twitter page. Sorry, the X page. This is what Peter Obi tweeted when the protest was ongoing. It just mirrors something that Professor Jampo, you indicated. And then also what Professor Bafo Ajimendua also put out. This is it. It says, Kenya as a country has 42 tribes, and no one of them cares about where William Ruto is from. Yeah. No one of them cares about religion, tribe, languages, and political affiliations. They all came out united in one purpose for the good of Kenya. That is a real progressive society with passion for their country.
And you are sitting in Ghana saying, I am MPP supporter, NDC supporter. You are sick in the head.
In fact, there were some 5 members of parliament from Ghana. So, for example, if you talk about people coming face to face with what happened there, these 5 MPs from Ghana were close to the action because they were in the Kenyan parliament when the youth stormed the parliament building.
And I'm sure they were saying this will not happen in Ghana.
Yes, got access to that building. In fact, that's Sylvester Teta is the man in blue at the back there. So they were evacuated through the parliament building and the tunnel. That's the tunnel.
You cannot pay money to people and ask them to be quiet to support nonsense.
The tunnel, at the Parliament of Kenya, the underground tunnel. So there was the Honorable Neil Lante van der Poy, who is following this discussion this morning. Honorable Emmanuel Akwesi Jemfi. That's the local government. These are members of the local government.
Look at the way they are walking.
Committee.
You can see they are scared.
In fact, one of them said it in their video. There's a voice under this. So, both NPP, NDC MPs on the Local Government and Rural Development Committee of Parliament who were in Kenya for, as we do, the exchange of experiences and learning, as we have seen. The Honorable Edwin Nilante Van der Poy.
It's a waste of resources.
Akwesi Jemfi.
Why did they go and learn there? There's better learning here. We have taught them in school. For example, we taught them political science.
Sylvester Matthew Tete and the Honorable Mohammed Tufero, who are members of the local government and Rural Development Committee of Parliament. And these members of Parliament who were there, one of them spoke to me during the week. And Martin Pebu, before I come to you, I wanted to take a listen to Edwin Nilante Van der Poy, his experience about what went on in the Kenyan Parliament building when he was there and what he saw. Take a look.
Thank you very much, and let me say good evening to your viewers. First, let's thank God Almighty. God saved us from a very difficult and dangerous situation. As members of Parliament, we've witnessed many demonstrations. As political activists, we've been part of demonstrations. But what we saw in Kenya today was frightening. Was a determined force of civilians overpowering and overcoming security forces that have been detailed to prevent them from achieving their objective of entering the Parliament House. Alfred, let me say this. The morale in all this is for us politicians to understand that, look, people vote for us. And as such, when we decide to take decisions, we may think that what we want to do is the best way out. But once the people express their disgust, their displeasure, their unhappiness about the decisions we've taken, I think we must have a listening ear and at least have some interaction with them. This particular group, I learned, have no leadership. They are just mobilized on social media. And so there's no one the government who could really reach out to want to talk to them. And according to them, it was strategic because in the past, whenever they're having demonstrations like this and they have leaders, then government meet with the leaders and they try to convince the leaders, and the leaders will now bow out or kowtow to the demands of government. So this time, they don't have any stated leader and they are on their own. And so government doesn't know who to talk to. And I also think that talking to some of the MPs, I also think that the government has been a bit intransigent in all this because they've had opportunities to address these issues and at least let Parliament put a hold on the debate of these particular tax policies and do further consultation before it's introduced. Because according to the youth, they've been fighting over this for close to 2 weeks and nobody has really engaged them. And all that they see is the Parliament is adamant, the government is adamant, the government just want to go ahead and do what they want to do. So to them, the only way to stop these taxes from coming into fruition is to attack Parliament. And then Thursday, they're going to attack the State House itself to prevent the president from assenting to the bill which automatically will be passed. Because today the second reading was done. It went through the second reading. So what is left is only the third reading, which is normally a formality. Then it will be transmitted to the president to sign.
Well, so that's Honorable Edwin Nilante Van der Poy there. Says it was scary. They thank God for saving them from that
but I thought
situation.
He was going to advise our government.
No, in fact, it did. I mean, he did. He did say that.
Okay. Yeah.
You see, Professor Alfred Mendia highlighted a number of things that Professor Jampo also expatiated on as well about the type of democracy we are practicing. which has contributed to this, and the disconnect between leadership and the citizens. And he has admitted that his generation, the older generation, have failed us.
Yeah, very good.
He admitted that.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there's essentially poor leadership, really, and the poor management of natural resources. That was his diagnosis of what led to this Kenyan protest, and direct similarities to what is happening here in Ghana and across the continent as well. And this, I know you've always talked about the philosopher King and this imperial kind of imperialist style of leadership. He cites examples of what was happening in a colonial era. The kind of system that we put in to take care of the colonial master is what the ministers have inherited now. So you would have cooks, you have drivers, you have all sorts of things to make them comfortable, so they can think to deliver policies. That is not happening. So how do we cure this?
Yes, so I'm sure they must have mentioned the Constitution.
Indeed.
The Constitution is the beginning of our problem. Yeah, it's lopsided. It assumes, so some say actually they
prepared for Rollins.
Yes, but you know Tony Edu, those days, a few years ago, whenever I mentioned this, then Tony Edu would call in and say that's not true. People from so just to tell you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Tony Edu would call in and tell you that who told you that. Yes, but that's the larger belief. Yes, I also subscribe to it. So I'm just putting out at least for the younger ones so that they will know, and for researchers that's. What we are saying here is not gospel, okay?
Professor Bafad Mandela is there, you can ask him.
Yeah, but you know, Tony Edu said that they were there.
To keep a dictator in
okay.
to make a dictator
I want Lamati to make progress. And would respond to that. But
yes.
Okay,
he wants to respond. Let him respond.
Yes, so you see in Article 51, 58, Clause 1, it says, the executive authority of Ghana shall vest in the president and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. That's the executive authority. Yes, it's in one man. As I told you, when you read earlier on, when you read U.S. history, at the time they were writing their constitution, I know we borrowed a lot from them and the English. They wanted to have 3. And at a point, we practiced it in Ghana briefly. We had a presidential commission of 3 persons. I think that's the one that involved Justice Olenu and some other persons. There were 3. Yes, so, as I said, it's not new. I think going forward, we should revisit it. This giving all the executive authority to one person is not good. You see how Akufo-Addo, it's not just Akufo-Addo, except that he's the last, the worst, because we thought JM was the worst, but you all know now with history, we've seen that, somebody worse than JM has appeared and he's almost exiting. So with this very bitter experience, you remember Nyao Tamakwe, Dr. Nyao Tamakwe, good morning. That, as I told you, we experienced a bitter lesson in leadership, and true, this is more than bitter, right? So let's overhaul the constitution. That's it. There are too many powers in too few hands. You give too much to the president, and then parliament, if you go to Article 103, part of the oversight, it's not well structured. When the parliamentarians are looking for money, we forget that they tell you that money answereth all things, right? Of course, in practice, it may not be 100%, but it goes very far. You see that in Article 103, Parliament is supposed to exercise oversight over the executive. But Charlie, he who pays the piper calls the tune. Yes, it's true that other parts of the Constitution, when you come to 95, etc., all right, 78, yeah, talking about, 75 onwards. I mean, I'm talking about the fact that, yes, Parliament may approve budget, etc. That's just approval. If you go and pay them per diem and etc., they will approve it quickly. So the real holder of the money is the executive. The real holder, the one who really holds the purse, is the executive in practice. Though on paper, you will see that it is Parliament. So the point I'm making is that because the executive really holds the money, all the money is in the president's hands, he controls Parliament, which shouldn't be. So look at it. On paper, you see Parliament should control him, but in practice, he's controlling Parliament. Let's read the provisions to buttress. So 103, clause 3, it says that Committees of Parliament shall be charged with functions including the investigation and inquiry into the activities and administration of ministries and departments as Parliament may determine, and such investigations and inquiries may extend to proposals for legislation. So you see it, Parliament has the power to investigate, right, all the activities of the ministries, etc. But that is on paper, because when you read the papers, Professor Achuayi, Professor Okwe, etc., they'll tell you that once they enter Parliament, they are looking for what? Juicy positions. So this thing you've seen that, 103 says they can investigate ministries, departments, etc. They don't do it as robust as we would wish. No, they don't. Remember a few years ago, Manasseh petitioned Parliament about Zoom Lion. When Akufo-Addo was in opposition, he was crying that that contract, the Zoom Lion contract, was full of corruption, etc. But Manasseh petitioned Speaker Babin. How many years on? The report is not coming out. The report is not coming out. You think it's just easy? You think it's just for the sake of it? So many forces, right? So look at it, and then you find that in practice, the president has taken all the powers from Parliament. And I'm not the one saying it. Speaker Bagwin himself has admitted it. He tells you that Parliament, amongst all the three institutions, that's the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, Parliament is the weakest. Right? Oh, so are we done? I thought we are looking at the solutions. How to...
Yes. I mean, in the major takeaways from this Kenyan situation, or what happened, you've tackled one aspect, so that we don't end up spending too much time on that aspect.
Yes, so...
because so many other things that we talk about, the lessons or what should be looked at to correct the ills or the deficiency in our democracy, for that matter.
Okay, great. So, to take away from it, I think Professor Jampo has said it all. And let me greet Oliver Bakavomawo. Yes, Oliver, good morning. You see, history is proving you right. History is proving Oliver right. How many years ago, somebody, Cambridge University student, leaves his education to come and help us fight, and we are not following him enough. He was thrown into custody. We didn't make enough noise. Rather, people even thought that he's supporting coup. He's supporting coup d'etat. He's supporting coup d'etat. You see what's happened?
Even
by demonstration. Remember, hey, you know what? Yesterday, I laughed last week. Professor Kwesi Yankah wrote about MPP. They should allow Bawumia. Because, coincidentally, last week it was read on a different newspaper. I said, hey, Professor Kwesi Yankah, the demonstration, instead of him to support, he was laughing.
So
he was laughing at our demonstration.
So what's the point exactly?
The point is that grown-ups who should be able to see far into the future, that the governance is getting poorer and poorer, and so they should get up and help in the fight. Where rather lampooning me. Yeah, he wrote a piece and said the demonstration was abysmal, etc. Meanwhile, he himself hasn't organized one.
But then again, you see, in the end, the fundamental issue here is that the people who came together in this Kenyan situation, one, there was no leadership to it. So I can't even liken it to what you did. And I don't want us to even draw any similarities to what you did and what somebody said about it. There was no leadership. There was no frontal individual to be identified as that.
No.
And I'm coming.
Yeah.
And these persons moved in because, as they indicated, whenever there was a leader to the protest, the leaders were compromised.
Yes.
That tells you the reverse of what we've always been trying to do in this country.
Yes.
That the citizens, as Professor Jampo indicated, must begin to own up, take responsibility, and not just look up to somebody to want to take the charge of mobilizing. We all feel what we are feeling in this country, don't we?
Yeah, times are hard, very, very hard. Very hard, very, very, very hard. We are really suffering. Yes, but there's a lot to take out. There's a lot of similarity. Please, when you are told that there's no leadership in the Kenyan demonstration, that's false. No, no, no. What maybe we should correct it this way. No, they haven't revealed leadership. Yes. It's not possible. No,
it was very spontaneous.
They haven't revealed.
If you monitor,
so it's people who will use various networks and say, Charlie, make we gather for them.
If our social media was made.
Exactly. So that's leadership. You let the researchers go into it in future. You see the names they will bring out. It's just that it's a strategy that, look, don't say so and so is the leader. But there's a lot of networking, underground, coordination before you get those numbers out there. It's a lot. So please, if they tell you that there's no leadership, it's actually, for now, maybe what we can say is that the leadership has not been revealed. Yes, that's the best way to put it. But don't say there's no leadership. No, it doesn't happen that way. At least I've had some experience. It's not too spontaneous like that, right? Yeah, so for us, Jampo has already said it, that look, this our timidity must stop. Hypocrisy must stop. You've bought a few cars, you have 10 or how many houses in Accra, you think you are secure. Don't forget, you'll be on the road. You know, sometimes somewhere on the road and the guys knock on the windscreen, the door, the glasses, right? They'll meet you in the streets. Then you won't come out. And even if when you don't come out, they can come into your home. So we have a collective interest in making sure that this time we don't allow this poor governance to go on. It doesn't matter that somebody is NDC, somebody is MPP. No. If what we are discussing here, if you agree there is poor governance, Akufo-Addo has led us into a deep crater, step up and speak up. Stop this NDC, MPP. Look, people have called us NDC, MPP. Has it reduced us? Yes, of course. It's hard. We've suffered financially because some people will say, no, they won't give you work because you've been tagged as NDC. And so what? Are we not surviving? Yeah, because, you know, I can tell you one thing. For those of you who don't want, who think that, oh, you have it free. Look, there was this project, somebody, because I was tagged NDC, they didn't give me. There was some work. It wasn't long. There was trouble with it. I said, oh, can you imagine if they had put me on that project and the alarm with the trouble that came? You see the embarrassment I would have suffered. So please, listen, if you are obsessed with money, that's your own problem. But for us, this is what we want to fight. We all can't be obsessed with money. Right. Ghana must work again. That is what you have to step up and do. If you're obsessed, it's normal that not everybody will think about Ghana. Some will be obsessed with their this need for money for they themselves and their family. But others will fight for Ghana. So if you think because you're obsessed with money, everybody who comes and wants to speak is obsessed with money and he's been given money to come and speak, that's your own problem.
Okay. Well, Professor Bafo-Adjumani, why don't you just quickly comment on this bit about correcting what the Constitution has created with the powers allocated to the president. And one of the reasons, because you cited the type of democracy we are practicing that has created the disconnect between leadership and citizens, which then influences how leadership even reacts to the concerns of the citizens.
Well, thank you again, and again, hello to my friends. You see, from the Kenyan experience that we are discussing, personally, I'm not interested in the approaches to the protest. In other words, how smart they were not to have leadership, how they organize it, and Ghanaians we are not doing that. For me, the focus would be. By the way, I said that because I wouldn't like to see Ghana having that kind of experience where 30 young people will be lost because of the irresponsibility of leaders, of leadership in the country. So I'm more interested in how we proceed in such a way that we preempt that possibility in the country. And that's why I agree with my good friend there, my good lawyer there, about the need to seriously review the Constitution to recreate power relationships between these political institutions and citizens. Because as he said, and I've always insisted, that we have created an imperial presidency. We don't need that. But that's a long discussion, so I won't get too much into that. I think we should be looking at certain fundamentals, because I think we're all interested in Ghana that works. We're all interested in Ghana where everybody gets something, okay? and our development taking place in peace and progress. That's what we want. So since we have identified these serious contradictions in the Constitution, that should be the first thing that we do. That's why, in a way, again, it wasn't official, so perhaps I shouldn't worry about it. Recently, we were told that the Parliamentary Leadership commissioned some people to review the Constitution. I saw the report and I dismissed it because it didn't touch on any fundamental. We are not looking at about the legal processes for this or that. We're talking about fundamental, how we change, we rearrange the power relation between political authority and citizens. And I think my good lawyer, the Pebu, has really made some very excellent points on that. Secondly, we have to look at our economy. You see, we know that we have serious challenges, but what is disturbing is that we are not looking at how we extricate ourselves from that. We have been permanently fixated on how we borrow, how we consume. We are not thinking of how we create wealth. It's wealth creation that can get us out. So if you are borrowing to create wealth, fine, but you don't borrow to consume. I mean, there are certain commonsensical issues here. I'm not an economist. In fact, when you sit and narrate the statistics of GDP per that, I laugh because, look, we've gone through this for donkey years. If the IMF comes to tell you you grow by 4% and you take that as hooray, and that is not the issue because we have grown to a certain percentage, still we drop to zero. So it's been a ding-dong kind of issue here. So let us look at critically how we revamp our economy and making it a productive economy, not a consumptive economy. And we have had that before. If we cannot, feed ourselves with the staples that we have, then we have a problem. Look, in the 70s, everybody knows that we exported rice to Burkina Faso and Mali. Rice production was such that we were able to export. Now we're importing almost $1 billion a year. We're importing tomato, things that we cannot grow at our backyard. So at times when I hear my friends saying, look, we went to the market, it's 5 cedis. Look, Accra, I remember when my good friend, Professor Boatin, Frimpong Boatin was CEO, if he's listening, he lived next to where the Netherlands have built their embassy, at Kwaje. A house is just there. Anytime I visited him, I could take a chunk of plantain, cocoyam from his backyard. Everywhere in Ghana, you can plant something. If you have a good leadership that can direct and lead us into self-sufficiency, self-reliance in these things, we will cut about half of our financial things down. But if you're in a country where we delight in importing toothpicks, and all of us have said this for years, and we are not having a national policy that addresses that, that will compel Ghanaians to look back on their own kind of backyard and begin to take these kinds of personal initiatives, then we will continuously blame any government that comes to power. Because look, whether it's NDC, NPP, CPP, whoever comes to power, within the same arrangement that we have, Ghana will be the same. So let's look at how we change our fundamentals, how we change our existence by taking charge of our development. Yeah. Champon said one time, we should be master. We will have to take the commanding heights of the economy, including our natural resources, an arrangement that will not allow the bureaucrats and the politicians to simply control these things. And look, there's so many things going wrong, so many things. And that's why personally, I'm losing faith in the political parties. And I don't know if what the South Africans have done, they've been forced by the electorate to do, that nobody, no party got what we call a majority, therefore you are forced into a coalition. If that's what you have to do, fine. So that if nobody wins, we don't simply go for a rerun. Let us bring parties together. When my good friend was bemoaning the young people who are following parties are not coming together to organize, we need to demonstrate that at the highest level, that this nation needs to come together and have a common purpose. Not one comes 4 years, 8 years, you come, you throw away everything the previous government did, and you start afresh. So we have been marking time. So for me, to run up, my point is that if we did our homework well, if we begin to think seriously how to reposition ourselves as a people, as a country, then we will admit that the kind of democracy we are practicing is not good. Look, take the issue of meritocracy. I can tell you, most of you perhaps know more than I do. If you go and see certain people in certain positions, you wonder whether the one who made the appointment had a head on the shoulder. Because some people are put in certain positions where normally they will run peg in square hole, whatever. The fact is that there is no merit in many of the people that we place in certain strategic positions. They don't produce. So after 4 years, we all leave and we bring another bunch of people and do the same. Look, we need to really reform our politics and find a way to focus on our development, and so that eventually Ghana, we can have dignity rather than going around and begging for crumbs every time.
You couldn't have said it any better than this. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Indeed. Having you also compliment my distinguished guests in studio. I really do appreciate your time joining us. And Professor Jambo wants to, just a quick one.
Well, I said my regards to him. I mean, he's been a great mentor.
Yeah. Nice man.
Thank you.
He doesn't want me to call him Professor and say, but if I don't call him Professor and say, how will I? What else?
We like titles too much. We don't want the work. We're looking for.
No, he doesn't want me to call him
Professor. Saying something, Professor Agyeman-Duah?
Yes, sir.
What were you saying? We lost you a bit.
Yeah, I was saying, you know, one thing about leadership is what we call humility, you know. If African leaders were to be humble, humble just about 50% of what we witness, things will change. There is a certain superiority complex of leaders. You know, I mean, there's a leader I know who travels with his own seat anywhere. As if any chair we give you somewhere else is not adequate. So, and it's across the continent. So please, Jampo, you're right. I mean, Bafo is here. You are there.
We only know of one leader who travels with his seats around, but I don't know why. You don't want to mention the name, but it's fine. We know.
Well, if you know the person,
name, what are you scared of?
I'm scared of nothing. But if you follow me, you see how I make my points. I make my points clear.
Yes.
That anybody who carries his own seat around, it doesn't impress me as a humble leader.
Yeah. It's President Kufuor. Point simple.
Okay. There's another African leader who does that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah is a former senior governance advisor to the United Nations. I do appreciate your time. Also, a respected governance expert. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. We'll go to the courts. After this, I have a few of your messages to read as well. Not a few, quite a number. I'll do the best to read. And lawyer Christian Mamhesi will join us as well in studio as we go to the courts together with my guest. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, Walambo! Hey, Walambo! Hey, I asked him to buy me original politics.
Hey, please don't make mistake. Stop the papa. Open the come on. And ye politics no gala. Ya yatu there. Hey, papa.
Papa, can ruffle.
The politics is original. The first and the best.
What is? Ukota also for dear acrobat to use in
Politics, yes.
My head, nobody understands.
My name is Della Sade, and I get to hang out with the ladies on the Ladies Circle this Saturday. So join us at 6 p.m. right here on TV3.
A woman that was married to a man. She was feeling lonely because the man was working overseas most of the time. She met this man there, and they had a one-night stand. She discovers that she's pregnant.
What mental state do you think a woman needs to be in
to get to the point of saying, I'm just gonna hit and run? If you feel like very emotionally attached to someone, if you're with another person, you are absent from them even though you are physically
especially
there.
as a woman.
Come on! Can I get it?
Yeah.
Woo, 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 woo.
We're Nice to call say.
You're very hot. Have you ever dumped a guy and regretted it? Wait, did I dump them and then regret it?
Okay.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad, MTN,
Yaz toothpaste and brushes,
Alive Soap,
Woodin.
Yama adofo akwaba. O house of person na onene tie na ge hu akono efa. By mistake now dey petiti kwesini die mu no fa yefuna.
See that.
O Valentine gift na ere.
Na pork ni cook. Nti every pork na e TV game.
Wa sorry for no. Omusofu ma mu ye mienu.
Bigire no ye abo fo mbebo me akwanim.
Okay, nti mo kwa sorry a typically maybe I would puppet and answer what wa. O mienu ti betena wachi.
O metam jan ere. O mo ya sofo. O mo ye mire no mo metam congregation.
Inti se na nkwala 13 na do betime watimi asifie.
E wo dwene fie ho. You take a dai bubu ye fie dey go here.
Service big to some make say obi a me matena kura ketwa be 10 house.
Na wo kwa broche the first time.
Na wo kwa broche na wo kwa Jesus water way, a jacket way.
2 p.m. say na net e wo ma.
Obi a hwe me.
Enti wo gam o be ti bi.
Na kakra no nsuo.
Anu odene odofo.
The Delay Show is brought to you by Nasco, Pepsodent, Betway, Gino, Delay Foods, Yas Sanitary Pad, Tabia Takun.
The Delay Show, Sunday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
This week on Ghana Strongest, the battle lines are drawn. We head inside Tema SOS Village, where the men and women are challenged to their limits in events like the giant tower flip, giant power stairs, and some medley in there, coupled with TV3 Stone. Head to head in epic challenges.
190. She's still going.
26. Witness strength redefined. Ghana's Strongest special episode from Tema SOS Village airs 30th June at 4 p.m. Don't miss out.
Hey, you got.
Catch Ghana's Strongest this Sunday only on TV3. Brought to you by
Deluxy Acrylic Paint, Kivo Foods,
Drugnet, Mixi Choco, Channel Hot,
Frutelli Caliber.
This Sunday on Hot Issues.
What is spectacular about Matthew Opoku-Papa? He's been in charge of the energy sector. He has not even got the honor and the capacity to accept that we have an energy crisis.
What's your relationship with the Electoral Commission like at the moment?
It's a relationship that I would say is difficult. Why? Because there's no trust. If there is a place where the most massive stealing of vote happens in this country, it's Ashanti region. It was in that critical moment when they were stealing the vote. Do you know where the shenanigan was happening? It's coming from Ashanti region, from Kumasi. That's where they were changing the result that already been declared.
What are the achievements of the NDC?
I see all the time that there's no perfect political system. But between the NDC and NPP, it's really sad if people actually make an effort to place us as the same.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Encounter the true spirit of prophecy, which is the testimony of Jesus Christ, and awaken to the limitless life of God beyond your wildest imaginations through the power of prophecy with Prophet Elvis Mbonye. Now every Saturday, 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Power of Prophecy shows this and every Saturday at 11 p.m. on TV3.
Tell me what you're cooking. The alumni battle is back.
Get ready for the culinary showdown like no other. Kitchen Wars Season 3. Experience the heat of the kitchen wars as alumni put their skills to the test and showcase their passion for cooking. Who will go head-to-head in the ultimate cooking showdown to fight for culinary supremacy? And whose artistry of gourmet cuisine will impress the judges? Don't miss Kitchen Wars Season 3, where flavors clash and only the best reign supreme. Interested schools should send their details to WhatsApp number 0561 913333 to register. Kitchen Wars, your school fit cook.
Kitchen Wars, coming soon on TV3.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We are live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. We're live on a number of radio stations across the country. And in fact, the about 1,025 of your messages I do acknowledge. All of them. Thank you very much. This one says, Benjamin says, Alfred, ask your panelists if it's not possible to have a non-partisan parliamentary system and leave the party politics for only presidential system so that the two will be distinct, or we go strictly only on parliamentary system and elect president from parliament. You say, thank you. This one here, good morning. Okay. This one is asking about what Honorable Nilante van der Poel said. Thank you very much. Good morning, Alfred. This is coming from Salis. Says, leadership indeed has failed. Kenya protest was the demonstration of the rule against the rulers. However, destruction of public property and lawlessness is and will never be condoned by any security force. The Kenyan police force did not apply the principles of internal security. Kenya is a hub, likewise Uganda, when it comes to the international community, i.e. United Nations, hence the use of their airlines and airport. Encouraging the youth to behave like the Kenyans is below the belt. And I think that there was a clear distinction that never happened. Here it says, I'm happy that Professor Jampo did that exactly, by telling the young people that it is not for destruction of public property to send a message. Accountability is the best. When you fail, you are just jailed, clause, until you are proven guilty. When we have seen what you did, he says that is a question that he's asking. If there's clear evidence of what you have done, why do you also need to be proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt before you are jailed? That is, he says, it's animal farm kind of law. Thank you. This one here from Jack says, good morning. We should not push this problem to the young people. The old people who created it should correct it. Or at best, both old and young should come together and correct it. The young people want to live, but not to be killed by the police who they're using the taxes to pay, you say. But Professor Bafaj admits that indeed the older generation have failed us. Fred Forson says, I'm in tears listening to Professor Bafaj Mendria on democratic crisis and failed leadership in Africa. This is the kind of conversation we need on a Saturday morning like this, mode of reflection. Thank you, Fred. This one here from John Kofi says, this cement prices controversy is the Minister of Trade not playing to the gallery, you say. How are they going to consult? How are they going to engage stakeholders? And you write a very long piece, which I really do appreciate the thoughts in there. Thank you very much. This one here from Musa Abatwa in Aswasi. I respectfully disagree with the Trade Minister, Katie Amon's assertion that enacting a law to regulate cement prices is not the solution, and that the key lies in addressing the depreciation of the city. You say, thank you. And this one from Aziz Donla from WA. Government must look into the production cost of cement in this country. If only government would listen to the manufacturers as well, you say. Thank you very much. Also from the Importers and Exporters Association, Samson Asaki Awingobit sends me a long one as well, and they have also written to Parliament not to pay attention to that ally. Thank you very much. Now let's go to the courts. This week, the Attorney General Godfrey Adami took over the cross-examination of Richard Jakpa, the third accused in this ambulance trial. And one of the major highlights of AG Godfrey Adami's cross-examination was a letter that communicated the dismissal of Richard Jakpa from the Ghana Armed Forces. We have a copy of that letter which has been admitted into evidence by the trial judge in this case. But first of all, take a listen to Richard Jakpa, and I'll show you the letter. Take a look.
And mischief, that is the Attorney General and the government have created, and using their surrogate media houses to be peddling falsehoods, twisting proceedings of the court, and then bringing out evidence that I have no idea about and trying to put it on me. I want to address that. The Attorney General brought a document, a pile of documents to the court about my military career. I left the military about 17 years ago. Now, he brought a document purporting that I have committed certain crimes according to the letter. In fact, that letter, I was not copied. I have no knowledge of that letter. And that letter are allegations that are unsubstantiated, unfounded, and I was never confronted with it by the military 17 years ago. And that letter is purported to have been written by one Brigadier General Ahiaglo. In fact, I know Brigadier General Ahiaglo. He's dead. He's deceased years ago. And he wrote that letter on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, who was by then Major General Odote. So Brigadier General Ahiaglo was a staff officer to the Chief of Army Staff. So he wrote on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff. So this unfounded allegation that I was never confronted with, I was never made known of, a secret report document that they wrote to the Chief of Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, who reports to the Chief of Defense Staff, the CDS. I have no knowledge about it. In fact, today is the first day I saw that letter, dated.
Well, that's Richard Jakpa. There is the third accused in this ambulance trial. A number of things that he points out, that this is the first time or Thursday was the first day he saw the letter in question, which has been admitted into evidence, as a matter of fact, by the trial judge. And then also the content of it, he wasn't aware. But here's a copy of that letter that the Attorney General dwelt on to, in fact, cross-examine Richard Jakpa when he took over the cross-examination on Thursday. Take a look at this. The release from service for unsatisfactory conduct, Lieutenant Richard Jakpa, and you have his number there. This is dated 12 September 2007. These are the points in this letter. 1, the above-named officer was commissioned into the Armored Corps as a regular officer on 21st August 1998. All things being equal, the officer should have made the rank of captain on 21st August 2002 and a major on the 21st of August 2007. He has consistently failed his promotional examination and now lags behind his mates in rank. Also, his service with the colours has been largely unsatisfactory, marked by consistent fraudulent conduct, abrasiveness, and general indiscipline. And that's why you hear Richard Jakpa say, if the fraudulent conduct was consistent, he shouldn't have been in the army for that long, because just one act of fraudulent conduct was enough to have him sacked and not be consistent. But the letter says so. 2, in addition, Richard Jakpa has incessantly been indebted to various people, institutions during the period. An example was his long indebtedness to the Recce Regiment PRI to the tune of $300, which he was unable to pay till authority was sought for the amount to be deducted from his salary. Throughout his service life, Richard Jakpa has proved consistently that he belongs to a world incompatible with the decent and gentlemanly composure that the Presidential Commission confers on officers of the Ghana Armed Forces. In fact, it goes on, and the point 4 essentially explains why this letter communicated his dismissal. From the foregoing, the continual retention of Richard Jakpa is not in the best interest of the Ghana Armed Forces and indeed himself. It has accordingly been decided that Lieutenant Richard Jakpa be released from the service forthwith. And he talks about Brigadier General for the Chief of Army Staff then, the late Brigadier Ahiaglo. He signed this and he's deceased. So, yeah. Lawyer Christian Mamhesi, private legal practitioner, is joining us in the studio for this conversation. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you and your viewers alike.
Let's establish a few things. Did Richard Jakpa need to know about this document, this letter, before the Attorney General pulled it up during the cross-examination? Was it a requirement per se?
Okay, with respect to the Evidence Act, and when we are dealing with witnesses that are supposed to testify, especially in the arena of admissibility of evidence, and also looking, if you come down, aside dealing with admissibility of evidence, and when you draw further down to section 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, which deals with credibility of the witness, the law indicates that there shouldn't be a surprise. Now, in a situation where the prosecution is seeking to introduce such a document, an application would be made to the court, and for the court to determine the admissibility or otherwise of it. Now, when the court comes to a conclusion that this particular piece of evidence would inure to resolving the matters before the court, then the court would admit it. Now, it would be left to the court to put a probative value on it as to, so when we talk about the probative value, we are talking about the weight that the court would ascribe to it in helping it resolve the matters. Now, when we move further down and we are looking at attacking the credibility of a witness, that, like I said, ventures us to those sessions I mentioned. Number one, generally in educating the public with respect to this particular strategy, as I would say, but it is enumerated in the Evidence Act. It deals with, there are situations where during trial...
Hold on a bit. Before we get into that strategy, this letter has been admitted by the trial judge into evidence. It has been admitted into evidence. So then what happens to it? After it's been admitted into evidence, then what next?
So once it's admitted into evidence, prosecution is at liberty to cross-examine the witness on it. And in cross-examining the witness, they will be testing a number of things as provided under the Evidence Act. They'll be checking for consistency and inconsistencies. They'll be checking, or they'll be testing issues on the substance of the testimony of the witness. They'll be also checking on the truthfulness or otherwise of the witness. They also look out for the bias or the motive or any interest that exists. And they'll also check about the capacity of the witness to recall and also to accentuate its mind to some of the facts or otherwise that are contained in the letter. So this whole business by the prosecution is basically to test the credibility of the witness. And where they are successful, it would further water down the testimony that the court ought to ascertain as provided by the witness at trial. And we can also not forget that the value of the testimony, that's the probative value that the testimony of the witness would give out, would inure to whatever the court or whatever conclusion the court would come on. So, I mean, the purpose of cross-examination is to put your case across, and the majority of it is to do everything to water down what the testimony that the witness is putting across.
In fact, one of the major reactions after Thursday's hearing, that's cross-examination by the Attorney General on this particular letter, is that, well, it doesn't relate to the substance of the case. So how does that even come in? And how does that even impact on the case if it's going to make reference to this letter? But this is just a strategy to discredit the witness. And that's not wrong, you say? It's not wrong in law?
Yeah, so if you look at section 882, it deals with, of the evidence, that it deals with extrinsic evidence. You see, and extrinsic evidence, as we find this, so far as it would discredit, and section 82, all that sections that is contained therein or thereof, it basically is provided there are rules of court with respect to trial that deals with discrediting the witness, and that is rightly what the learned Attorney General is doing. And this is an extrinsic evidence which is seeking to support or to discredit the witness. So it supports its case that is putting across, or to discredit, and also to discredit what the witness is saying. So like I mentioned, under the Act, the various areas of testing the credibility of the witness, whether the witness is consistent, whether the witness has the capacity to recall facts of whether it's non-existent or existent to its case, whether the truthfulness or otherwise of what the testimony of the witness is or has been put across properly. All of this comes to play at trial, and it is enveloped in the extrinsic evidence that the learned Attorney General has put out, so to test the credibility of the witness. At the end of the day, the learned Attorney General believes that this extrinsic evidence would inure in putting its case out. At the end of the day, the prosecution, by the time the prosecution closes their case strategy will be put out there. So you sometimes hear commentary where people say, this is a sidebar, it is not necessary. But at trial, there can be a collateral damage. And we say evidence, cross-examination is at large. But even though cross-examination is at large, I mean, for viewers, when we say cross-examination is at large, you cannot limit a lawyer cross-examining somebody at trial. But definitely, the court would guide you. When you ask irrelevant questions, it's either the defense counsel or the defense counsel will raise an objection on relevancy and other matters, and for the court to rule on. So yes, cross-examination is at large, but the main thing is that the prosecution or lawyers do during trial in cross-examination is to put your case across and try as much as possible to discredit the witness in there so that you can have a field day.
Professor Jampo, do you have some clarity to that question that you asked me off air? Why does this relate to the case?
But the point is this: you see, I have a lot of people who have been telling me to go back to the classroom to study law.
Yeah.
But these guys are the same people who tell me that law is about 70% common sense.
Yes.
And then 30% the law itself. And I keep saying that I have common sense. So if I have the 70% common sense, how come Martin people and to tell me I'm genius? How come? But the point is this. I've been wondering, if I tell you that this my flask is black.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And then you, host, you know it is black. My two colleagues here, you all know it is black.
Yes.
And then it is established that, well, I am not a credible person. Will my lack of credibility prevent the description, the known description of this flask as being black? The point I'm trying to say is that, or make is that, I saw the line of questioning, and you guys, I respect your processes. But I asked that, are these questions that they are asking, how are they nullifying the voice that we heard telling the man to say that he is sick, go to the court and say he's sick, and that he should take excuse to absent himself? How does it nullify it? Yes, so you can establish that the guy was not working well when he was a soldier 17 years ago. But how does that invalidate the voice that we heard on the tape? I've been thinking about it, and I'm saying, but is this not common sense? The common sense that you are talking about? Commonsensically, I think that these things do not do much to what has been, unless you see, I was hoping that he was going to just deny that, look, it's not my voice, and adduce evidence to show that it's been doctored and all that. But if you go beyond that and to say, talk about the guy's soldier activity 17 years ago. Look, if you want to look at what people did 17 years ago, Godfred Dami, if you want to look at what you did when you were a child, then I'm telling you that you may not even be qualified to occupy the position as attorney. If you all want to go to our past and what we have done when we were children and what we did, I mean, growing up and all that, it may not qualify us for any position, you know. And so my point is that let it be said that some of these things, for me, they contribute to the needless waste of time in the legal adjudicative, processes. When the thing
but it is not wrong. It is not legally wrong.
Well, it may not be legally wrong, but the point is that we should be seen to also be correcting or be doing things that would address the challenge of delays in justice delivery. Okay, we shouldn't say that, well, that's the processes. When the questions that are being asked do not invalidate what is there black and white, you say cross-examination is at large, so we should just allow it and all that. For me, it doesn't make sense to me. And if you say law is more about common sense, then you see, I was thinking, I said, well,
what happens is that, you see, law is not social science. Law is not social science. Law is based on rules. It's a rules-based order. And this distinguishes law from social science. And you're in a slippery place.
I want to say law is not social science.
So let me finish my submission. So you respectfully. So the distinction is clear. Now, the point about having knowledge or knowing that, or one is claiming that this flask is black. In the witness box, where cross-examination is ongoing, the lawyer cross-examining can cross-examine, extract evidence from the witness in the box, test personal knowledge, whether indeed you saw it. It could be that the person has a perceptive value that the flax is black. But cross-examination will bring out that he does not have a personal knowledge that the flax is indeed black. It does not mean that the flax might not necessarily be black. But the person putting out to say the flax was black, having gone through the processes of law, the court can safely say that this witness testifying that the flax is black cannot be concluded as that.
Right. Even though that the court knows that the flax is black.
So in that it is a rule-based order. Now, the learned Attorney General in putting this particular thing, I've already mentioned to you that it is extrinsic evidence, which is allowed under the Evidence Act. Okay. Now, the theory of the Attorney General in coming out with whatever is doing could inure to its strategy. The issue about waste of time. Now, in courts, we don't necessarily deal with waste of time, even though our rules say that we should avoid needless presentations of cumulative evidence under the Evidence Act. You understand? And so if you are seeking to make an application for an exhibit to be adopted as an evidence, the court considers all of this under Section 52 of the Evidence Act to see whether or not this evidence that you are seeking to put in is indeed relevant, which would not cause undue delay, will not prejudice, will not confuse matters and all of that. Having crossed that threshold, we are not in the realm of whether this is causing delay, because at the end of the day, we have not really come to a conclusion why the learned Attorney General is indeed putting out this, because it's trial. And again, if you look at the sessions that I mean, 80, 81, 82, 83, it deals and lists the reasons for attacking the credibility of a witness. And indeed, character or trait of character, motive. You said there are recordings and all of that that described something. Right. There could be reasons for it. There could be biases for it. The Attorney General is just testing the credibility of the witness, and that is perfectly allowed. As to whether it will inure to his case or not, it is one for the court to decide. That is how come in running commentary we don't cross that red line of trying to preempt the court. We can only educate the viewers of what is happening in court. But that red line cannot be crossed by any commentator. Right. You get it?
Right. Thank you. I have reservations about what you just said. You are just speaking the norm, the law, and I mean sometimes you should also dare to question and to challenge the status quo, so that we would not always be wallowing in that phrase or expression that, well, the axis of whatever justice grinds slowly, and so we are pandering to that. Matters that can be, at a certain point in time, an issue go to court. The court says we hear it every day because we want to ensure speedy dispense or discharge of
That's
charges.
A special case.
And then on certain matters too, we want to tolerate some of these things because cross-examination should always be at large. I mean, can lawyers also be daring enough and in sometimes challenging the status quo in a manner that will set up precedent that also will be applied to other laws, other cases? I think
lawyers always.
I think that you are pandering
the profession of law. The profession of law.
The delays in the justice delivery system. This matter, I think, like I said, and like you people have been telling me, this one is common sense.
Okay, well, let me bring Lawyer Martin Pebble, and then I'll come to you. well, Hasimam, on this. That slippery path that you say, all of this
I didn't
references are on. What exactly is that path? And we just want to actually understand. Just a quick response to that.
Yes, so you don't say law is not a social science because you see, all over the world, when you look, we are recalibrating. You go to the US, now they are tilting towards moving law truly into social science. You go to the UK, you find faculties that law is in the social sciences, it's under social sciences. Okay, so there's a change. I mean, I'm reading in that area, so that's something I'm a bit comfortable with. So it's not safe to come and say that law is not social science. It's a whole thing altogether. You enter comparative law, there are disputes, you read Professor Jeffrey, this and Samuel's articles, etc. As I told you, I'm doing research near that area, so I'm a bit comfortable there. So just stay off it and make the point. Then it won't get muddled in the debate as to whether law is social science or it's not.
Yeah, but I see. But then again, moving forward now.
So I would say that there's this publication by Cambridge. Right. You see, the argument as to whether law is a social science or humanities has raged since time immemorial.
Okay.
So I understand where he's coming from, but my point is also not dismissive.
Okay.
Yes, my point is also not dismissive because I'll just leave it as that because it is an area in academia that a school of thought holds that law is not social science. Okay. Some others also postulate that law could be considered as a social science. Okay. And so there has not been a holistic conclusion on that. So in as much as you cannot appreciate the
for me, so basic.
So you just leave it out.
Let's that is what it's so basic. But the point is about the common sense. I want your take. Okay. I want your take. This thing is black. We all know it's black.
It's fine.
And you are saying I'm examining.
For example, thank you very much. You made your point. Now,
what are you talking about?
People, so what the Attorney General did in law is, it is lawful. The cross-examination and the reference to this letter I just made, it's not out of place.
Yes.
It is not.
It's not, except that it doesn't go far at all.
Why?
You see, council already told you. And even Jakpa gave the answer. Let's just go straight to the answer. This letter that seeks to disparage Jakpa was not copied to Jakpa. This is something that his superior is written. Look at the addressee. Can you show? It's so simply, it was not to Jakpa. Your boss is writing to GHQ, okay? So his boss, Ayaglo, is writing to GHQ that this is what I think about the individual. And you see it, look, ask yourself, in that letter, as you read, consistent fraud, this misbehavior, do you see him say that any disciplinary committee found Jakpa liable, any court martial? No. So this is not the letter that took Jakpa out of the military. The one that took him out, do you see that the prosecution, they've not let it out, but they leaked this one to social media so that it will be used to, confuse people. Please disregard this letter. Jakpa is
this
told
letter should be disregarded.
Just disregard it. This is not. Do you see Jakpa's name?
This is not material enough?
At all. There were 3 letters.
There.
Yeah, so let's go over. There were 3 letters that were tendered. Have you seen the other 2? The other 2 that have not been brought out are 1. Dami wrote to this guy, Minister for Defense, Nituwul. And Nituwul responded that, okay, this is what I have on him. So Nituwul's own is a cover letter. Then you find this letter, which they've let out into the media. But the one that released Jakpa simply says that they are releasing him and then they'll pay his entitlement. So as far as Jakpa is concerned, and that's the record, he was not dismissed. So this letter is useless. I mean, let's use.
But you see that this has been admitted into evidence.
Yes.
How do you describe this as
okay, good. I'm talking here on this social and political platform. That's what I mean. Now, if you are going to court, the thing that what Jakpa is standing trial for, right, is about causing financial loss, blah, 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 blah. This letter, as I've said, Jakpa was not copied.
Okay.
Jakpa has never had the opportunity to dispute this. So you are not now coming to ask him to dispute this in court. Look at the date, 2007. And Ahiablo is dead. The author of the letter is dead. He is dead, long gone.
Does that invalidate the details of it?
So I'm telling you that this letter...
No. Yes.
He's not there.
No, it doesn't invalidate. So as for being, you see, under the law, the judge admitted it as official records. We are calling section 120 of the Evidence Act. That is an official record, so the judge will allow it. But I'm sure counsel mentioned it. The fact that a court has accepted document doesn't mean that it is line and sinker. No. Admitting it means that it will be part of the record. So it's part of 1,000 people. And I said on this, when the Attorney General was trying to, no, you wait. So you leave the Attorney General, he knows the strategy. But for us, the key thing we are watching here, the public, you see, let's divide the trial into 3 stages. As we are discussing now, in our immediate interest are the statements Godfrey Dami made. What we are interested here was financial law, and the Kufuor proved that in court. The lawyers from Davis, Nanabi, said they said they will challenge. When they couldn't challenge, the tape is found to be genuine. So the things Dami said, those are the ones we are talking about. That is what has damaged brand Ghana. Ghana as a nation, we've been damaged. That is what we are assessing here. So this is Japan is alleged to have done. Can they, Dami, we heard your voice. It's your voice, so it's not even like a paper where you can say your signature is being forged. It's your voice. You're saying that, witness, slow down. Don't talk quickly. I want to travel and come. Go and bring me a fake medical certificate. Answer it this way for me. You could be heard on the tape. You didn't even understand this incite LC. The witness had to educate you, etc. How can these letters wipe that?
Okay.
So why is it that they are not letting out the release letter, the one that honorably discharge Japan from the military, rather something that his superior is written. Superiors can always write things that you don't know about. So how is he to answer this? 2007. Are you now going to, was there any court martial? If you found somebody fraudulent, did you do any court martial? Was there any disciplinary committee? Right. Where is this letter going?
I'll give you the last word on this matter, and then while we move on. Because
that's where we are limited.
But in discrediting the witness, there is?
I mean, just as I have said, the strategy of the Attorney General is on to the public. He is prosecuting his case, and his team would be the best to know what they are doing, but we'll get to know strategy by the time they close their case, as the judge will ask them. by that time, we would know by the pieces of evidence they've put out there whether indeed they have made a case against the accused persons. As to whether this piece is anything to go by in law, I cannot sit here to make a pronouncement on. It is for the court to decide to place that weight on. So for me, and educating the viewers at large, just as I have said, trial basically we go through, the prosecution would have its take on cross-examining the witness, and in doing so, two things. It is for the prosecution to put their case across, and also to discredit it. It takes majority of the business of trial to discredit the witness while you put all of these things across, and it is supported by the Evidence Act.
Christian Mamhesi is a legal practitioner. Also, lawyer to Bebo, Martin Luther King Bebo is a private legal practitioner, also the leader of one of the bondholder groups, and then also the convener of the Congress demonstration. In fact, we have a conversation on the bondholders, because there's another issue I'm looking into. So when I have information on that next week, we'll get into that. Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, and a governance expert. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming. Also, Professor Bafo Ajimendia, thank you for joining us. Also, Bishop Dr. Dawson, thank you for joining us, and our condolences to you on the loss of your wife. Reason why you're unable to join us this morning, and receive our condolences. And so to the ranking on the Tourism Trade Committee of Parliament, thank you very much. I was clothed this morning by Willie's Clothing Empire. Thank you. You can find them on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good weekend.
Meet Senator Kola Dia, Honorable Member of the Senate.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now I come attractive. Meet Tolani, girlfriend of Kola Dia's eye. This is Jolomi, lazy boyfriend who's only interested in living large. Jolomi convinces Tolani to enter into a relationship with Senator Kola Dia in order to earn extra income and remove both of them from poverty. Everything goes crazy in room 420 when Tolani is found lying in a coma. What happened in room 420? Room 420, a tale of forbidden romance, difficult decisions, distrust, murder, and friction. Catch the twists, turns, and plots and all the action only on TV3. Room 420 shows Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m. only on TV3.